you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evans, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, and I'm joined tonight by our in-house Intel subject matter expert, S2. S2, what's going on there? Did you wash your avatar and it shrunk or something?
Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and I ate shit on Friday and I liked it.
All right, so we're starting out with a bang. So let's jump right into this. So at a very high level, we put together a diagram that shows what's been going on with the flow of money from us to Ukraine over the past 4 years, well, since 2022, with this previously installed administration that did not win the 2020 election and was under the direct control of John Brennan and Barack Obama. So at a bare minimum, we've sent $350 billion to Ukraine, but it looks like about 50% of it stayed in Ukraine. And we don't have any accounting on that, by the way, where that money went in Ukraine. And approximately the other 50% went to shady NGOs or directly to some defense contractors back here domestically. But the balance has found itself into many other people's pockets. Part of it's gone to the propaganda machine, so legacy media and Hollywood. And I've mentioned this before, I'm going to mention it again. When you see the Mockingbird media come out and repeat the exact same talking points, and you see globalist politicians, especially those ones who are blessed by the WEF, Mockingbird, the same thing over and over again, that's your first clue that it's a line of BS that they're trying to feed people. And you should probably go searching to see where the money ends up. And as I was saying to S2 before we jumped on here, I've had my flame retardant suit on for a couple of days because the keyboard warriors have been coming out of the woodwork, and people said, oh, you should ban this person, ban that person. I'm not interested in banning them because it's good for them to reveal who they actually are. Plus, it gives us the ability to put our finger on the pulse of just how many people have had their brains turned to you-know-what by the legacy media. So anyway, back to our diagram here. 350 billion goes from Congress to Ukraine. About 50% stays in Ukraine, no accounting tied to that. The other 50% either goes to shady NGOs, but it has to travel through the SWIFT system for international payments. So there is some data on it, but it's skimpy on the details. Then a big chunk of that ends up going into the propaganda machine, which again is the legacy media in Hollywood, and it finds its way to these Congress critters. So let's have a look at this. I did an extensive amount of research on some of the top proponents of us sending money to Ukraine. And by the way, we have 100% confirmation that on Friday, before Zelenskyy, by the way, was the one who insisted on a meeting in the Oval Office with cameras present. And Trump and Vance said, okay, we got nothing to hide. We'll go ahead and do that. So that was one part of the setup. But he met with some top Democrats ahead of time, including some who are not even elected officials like Susan Rice, who gave him very specific instructions on what to say and what show to put on and to get into an argument with Trump, because the play was after that, oh my God, Zelenskyy is the leader of the free world and Donald Trump disrespected him. It was more bullshit theater put on by globalist people who've been inserted into our government one way or another. And again, we have 100% proof of that now. We'll get into that in just a second. But what I was really interested in for this chart was, what did the wealth look like for Congress critters in particular, congressional reps and senators in 2021, before the money started flowing wide open throttle to Ukraine in 2022? So Nancy Pelosi, $223,000 a year salary, went from $140 million net worth to $240 million net worth, and that's as of December 2024. Elizabeth Warren, Hiawatha, 1,024th Native American. Her salary is $283,000. Gives you an indication of how long she's been in office, by the way, when you see that relative to other Congress critters who started $174,000 a year. $283,000 a year salary, $12 million net worth 2021, $67 million worth December 2024. Mitch McConnell, salary $200,000 a year, went from $34 million net worth in 2021 to $125 million net worth December 2024. Lindsey Graham goes from having a net worth of $969,000 in 2021 to a net worth of $46 million as of December 2024. And he still gets the basic salary of $174,000 a year because he does not hold a higher position inside the Republican senators. Chuck Schumer, his net worth was $900,000 at the end of 2021, $75 million at the end of 2024. Then you got Schiff, Adam Schiff, pencil neck, $174,000 a year salary, worth $2 million December 2021, $200 million December 2024. And then Jamie Raskin, who loves to hear himself speak, is a complete moron. You ready for this? His net worth at the end of 2021 was negative $2.1 million. His net worth as of December 2024, $19 million on the base salary of $174,000 a year. So whether we're discussing USAID, other governmental programs, other bills that have been passed in the past couple of years to shovel immense amounts of money towards Ukraine, this has been the largest money laundering operation in history, bar none. And for anybody who can't grasp this simple flow, you can say whatever you want in the comments. You can say whatever you want in the chat. I don't really care what some random internet keyboard warrior has to say, and that's all I'm going to say on that topic for the rest of the night. S2, I'm going to turn it over to you specifically for your input on the diagram as far as this money laundering scheme is concerned.
Well, the diagram gives a general flow of the money, but it's way more complex than this.
Absolutely.
Because we have to remember too that we're not including USAID numbers in this chart. So we have to consider where the money went when it went to Ukraine, which we come to find out has been also funding their propaganda arm over there as well. So, and it's also been recently uncovered that Jamie Raskin also has connections to $160 million that was given out through USAID.
That's sitting in an offshore account. But back up for a second. Expand on the USAID money being used by the propaganda machine in Ukraine. They have 12 or so major news organizations there, and how many of them were receiving money from USAID?
All of them.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was all or there was one that was clean, but it's all of them. Okay.
No, it was all of them.
All right, good to know. So I'm going to pull up a short post here with regards to some stuff Elon said. And then I've got a longer list of 10 points. I'm going to go through as fast as I can, but it really brings this whole thing into picture. So this particular person here posted this, Truth Now. I don't know who the person is behind the account. We very much agree, Elon Musk, if half the funds sent to Ukraine were returned to USA politicians in pay-for-play money laundering scheme, the public needs to know and hold them accountable. This may help explain how they have salaries around $200,000 but have 81 million plus net worth, or 240 million if you're Nancy Pelosi. Also, we would like to know if Zelenskyy is really paying himself $11 million a month while his wife drives around Paris in a Bugatti and setting up a business in the United Arab Emirates. So Elon Musk has commented on this multiple times vis-a-vis his involvement with Doge, and has flat out said there is no way that any of these people can explain the massive explosion in their net worth other than taking money, bribery money, essentially laundered money through this entire process. I mean, you literally have the wolf guarding the hen house. You have the people who are authorizing money to be sent to Ukraine taking a kickback on the way back around. And what we haven't even touched on, S2, in any of this, and maybe you can share some details on it. We haven't even touched on the Biden crime family and their connection to Ukraine and Burisma in particular. What was the deal with Hunter Biden and Burisma, by the way?
So they had a special investigator over in Ukraine that was investigating Hunter Biden, and Biden actually was withholding aid to Ukraine, or was threatening to withhold aid to Ukraine if the investigation wasn't dropped. So when he made that announcement the very next day, the investigator was fired and the investigation ended, and then Hunter Biden ended up getting I think it was a $50 million a month job on Burisma's board, for knowing absolutely nothing about energy whatsoever. I'm not really sure, going into all of the details, exactly what that was all about, but I know that it was a payoff, basically.
Yeah, it was from Burisma in particular, just that one specific instance. He was getting 83,000 a month, which was $1 million a year, without knowing anything. But there were absolutely many more millions tied into the Biden crime family and this laundering scheme.
Well, and they spread it across his family too to hide it. So each one of Biden's family members, including his granddaughter, got a share of it.
Listen, if you're not laundering money, why would one family, meaning Joe Biden's family, his immediate family, need 240 LLCs registered in their name?
There's no other reason than to hide money. That's it. It's to be able to move money around. And I would also even go as far to say that all of these Democrats whose net worths have exploded through the roof were getting a cut of this also, because they knew about it. So they were in collusion with Joe Biden on this.
100%.
There was something else on that last slide that I wanted to mention as well, and I can't remember what it was now.
Give me a second. I'll bring it back up again.
Oh, I can't remember what it was. Go ahead and go on. If I remember, I'll chime in.
I have it queued up in the background, so just let me know when you want me to go back to. Happy to do that. So, all right, let's jump in on this 10 bad takeaways.
I remember what it was now. We also have to take into account with these folks too that they were also involved in insider trading. That's one thing. The second thing is, a lot of people may or may not be aware, but the biolabs that were created over there in Ukraine were created by the pharmaceutical companies. So there's no telling what they're getting out of that, not to mention the kickbacks that they're getting back out of Pfizer for pushing that jab on everybody.
Right. Yeah, good points. Definitely on the insider trading. The number of trades in particular made by Nancy Pelosi and her husband have drawn so much attention that there are actually people out there who do nothing but study her investments and then get the news out to everybody as fast as they possibly can so that other people can get on the gravy train, because like Elon pointed out, she has this uncanny ability to buy just at the right time every time. So,
well, it was interesting when she took her trip over to Taiwan. A lot of people don't know this either. I forget who she took with her, but she also made a stop off into Indonesia, I believe. And there was a new pharmaceutical company that was setting up shop over in Indonesia. Or no, it was Malaysia. Pardon me. It was Malaysia. Okay. So they were setting up a new pharmaceutical company over there. I forget what the name of it was, but it started something off like Pharmakia or something like that, basically lesser magic. But a lot of people don't know that she stopped off over in Malaysia on her way over to Taiwan.
Yeah, interesting stuff for sure. All right, so let's reel it back into Zelenskyy here and this theater that we were treated to on Friday. So Victor Davis Hanson, this is the best analysis that I've seen, bar none. We're going to go through all 10 points. So I'll go through each point, S2, and then I'll come to you afterwards to get your feedback in between each point. So number one, Zelenskyy does not grasp or deliberately ignores the bitter truth. Those with whom he feels most affinity, Western globalists, the American left, the Europeans, have little power in 2025 to help him. And those with whom he obviously does not like or seeks to embarrass, look at what he did in Scranton, Pennsylvania, he mentioned here. So just to expand on that ever so slightly, September 2024, Zelensky went on a tour of some plants that make the howitzer 155, so essentially a 6-inch munition. And Josh Shapiro was autographing these bombs essentially before they were sent to the Ukraine to lob at the Russians. But Zelensky was campaigning on behalf of Democrats, and that is against the law. You cannot come into our country. The British did it as well. The British sent something like a contingency of 100 people from the Labour Party to America to campaign on behalf of Kamala Harris. And I personally would love to see all of those people charged, tried, and convicted, because that's an illegal activity. But anyways, back to this. So for his own sake, I hope he is not being briefed by the Obama, Clinton, Biden gang to confront Trump, given their interests are not really Ukraine's as they feign. So it has been proven that Team Obama, so Obama, you've got the globalists like Klaus Schwab, then you got John Brennan, who was the guy who ran the first two Obama administrations and also ran this third one. And then Obama answers to him. And then below Obama, you've got a bunch of lieutenants like Susan Rice. So Susan Rice, Amy Klobuchar, and a couple other people that we'll cover here shortly were all in a meeting with Zelensky for about an hour before he went into his first meeting with Trump and Vance. And when he got into that first meeting with Trump and Vance, he made some very outrageous demands from us. He wanted $300 billion in reparations from Russia, and the list goes on and on. He was very argumentative. His shitty attitude started in this private meeting. He specifically said, I want to finish this meeting in front of the press. The whole thing was completely a setup. It's really easy to dissect it. We'll get there in just a second. So when Victor Davis Hanson wrote this was late Friday, before the information had been completely confirmed that Zelensky was coached by, these Democrats. And I'm sure there were rhinos involved as well. And by the way, Amy Klobuchar is the senator who ambushed Donald Trump the day after his inauguration with the crazy lady at the Catholic Church who admonished Donald Trump, which if I go back to that day, I would have got up and left with my entire family. I would not have sit there and listened to that crazy, what. But this Amy Klobuchar seriously has an axe to grind with Donald Trump. She's doing everything possible to try and sabotage him. So overall, as to what do you think of Victor's assertion that Zelensky either doesn't grasp or is deliberately ignoring the fact that his buddies are no longer in office?
I think more what's happening here is he's listening to this bunch of Democrats and warmongers. I don't think he's being coached by Obama, Clinton, Biden. I think the plan is coming from them, but it's coming to him through them as their proxies.
Yeah,
If we look
sure
at the tactics that have been used all along, this is a proxy war. So they're using proxies over and over and over in this. So they coached him to do this from them, and he doesn't he's just a puppet. I mean, he's just doing what he's told, saying, do this will work. If we can do this, we can get some way that we can get Trump out of office, or blah blah blah. I mean, it's just tedious completely.
Zelensky spent his entire career essentially as being an entertainer, an actor, and we've been commenting on this for a couple of years. When he shows up in his olive drab green, army style clothing in America, which, by the way, he met with Klaus Schwab last week and he wore a suit there. And I think we actually have a picture of it where the caption says, you absolutely wear a suit when you meet with your real boss, which, is crazy.
I would put a sign on the White House door that says no shirt, no shoes, no dice. You come in here dressed properly. Actually, you do like the judge did in My Cousin Vinny. You will come in here in a suit and tie, and you will look loyally.
It's very odd. That's funny. All right. So number 2, Zelensky acts as if his agendas and ours are identical, which is not true. So he keeps insisting that he is fighting for us despite our 2-ocean distance that he mocks. We do not have many shared interests with Ukraine, but not all by any means. Trump wants to reset with Russia and triangulate it against China. He seeks to avoid a 1962 DEFCON 2-like crisis over a proxy showdown in proximity to a nuclear rival. And he sincerely wants to end the deadlocked Stalingrad slaughterhouse for everyone's sake. So we covered a whole bunch of history last night. We're going to get into some history again tonight. I got some beautiful emails from people saying that I was clueless and didn't know my history. And ironically, these people are capable of going back to 2022 and 2012, 2014 timeframe with Crimea without going back to the breakup of the Soviet Union and how portions of Russia were essentially allocated to Ukraine, and that should have never happened. These are Russian people, speak Russian. They've been Russian for hundreds of years. And there was also a promise during all of that directly from us that we would not put NATO on the Russians' doorsteps, just like we demanded that they don't put missiles on our doorstep in Cuba in 1962, or God forbid, somewhere like Canada or Mexico. So anyway, S2, your thoughts on Zelensky, assuming that we have the same agendas as him, and we clearly don't.
We have a faction in our government that is there, that he doesn't really have an agenda. He's told what his agenda is.
Good point.
And he that agenda does not align with an America First or MAGA ideology, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't align in any way, shape, or form. And to be so bold to say that you're fighting for us, we don't give a fuck about that war. I mean, if we want to go back, and next time you get a troll that asks you about history, ask them if they can find Czechoslovakia or Yugoslavia on the map, or
Right.
if they can find the USSR on the map, because all three of those don't exist anymore. And that's what happened to them, is exactly that. They lost their wars, they were conquered, they ran out of money, so therefore they ceased to become countries, and they were gobbled up by other countries.
So I'm sure you've seen this, but I don't know if our audience, everybody has seen it. But over the course of the past 24 hours, more than once, Zelensky has said that Americans, men and women, are going to have to go fight in Ukraine, and there are going to be many casualties, and lots of them are going to lose their lives. But we have to do that. We have to support them in this war, and we have to dedicate our ground troops, because he's quoting Section 5 of the NATO agreement, which says if one of the member states is attacked, they all have to participate. He's acting like he's already in NATO.
Member of NATO.
And he never will be. There's no way. That you want to start World War III, make Ukraine part of NATO, and that will do it. And that's in a gross movement based on what our promises have been over years.
He doesn't get it. What they're fighting over, what Russia's not fighting with Ukraine over resources, but we are.
Correct.
That Lindsey Graham said the quiet part out loud months ago. They've got vast resources there, and we want it.
They have the richest farmland anywhere in the world. It's the breadbasket of Europe, as they refer to it. So let's move on to point number 3 here. The Europeans and Canada are now talking loudly of a new muscular antithesis independent of the U.S. promises given that would require Europeans to prune back their social welfare state, frack, use nuclear, stop the green obsessions, and spend 3 to 5% of their GDP on defense. The U.S. does not just pay 16% of NATO's budget, but also puts up with asymmetrical tariffs that result in a European Union trade surplus, of $160 billion. Plays the world cop by patrolling sea lanes and deterring terrorists in rogue states that otherwise might interrupt Europe's commercial networks abroad, as well as de facto including Europe under a nuclear umbrella of 6,500 nukes. So since he wrote these 10 points, there have been some developments. The British are going to give him $2.9 billion in some advanced weaponry, but they can't really give them anything more than that. One, because they don't have the money, and two, I'm not sure what the exact number is, but the British military is way understaffed. They can't recruit. They can't get people. And that right now is the biggest Achilles heel that Ukraine has, is they're actually kidnapping their own citizens to put them on the front line. And before anybody in the audience makes any comments, We have a ton of video of this that we're going to play tonight. So don't waste your time and effort and breath trying to say it's not true. It's absolutely true. And JD Vance hit on it on Friday. And we're going to show you the video evidence of Ukrainians being kidnapped by their own government and sent to the front line. So as to thoughts on the Europeans essentially going at Russia alone without our support directly.
Well, Germany can't fight a war for more than one day. They don't have the ammunition to do it. And as you stated, the UK's ground troops are severely depleted. They don't have a
back up, S2.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I want you to share the fact. Why can Germany only fight? Why don't they only have enough ammunition for one day?
Because they've been giving it away.
They gave it all to the Ukrainians. They have nothing left.
Yeah. I mean, we fund 2/3 of NATO, okay? And it's basically Trump has just said, we're not doing it anymore. This is your war. If you want to go play soldier and you want to go get yourself killed, go ahead and get yourself killed. You'll just go by the same way that the same way Ukraine's going. You'll cease to become a country. They've got all of these illegal aliens in their country. They're all Middle Eastern Muslims that are over there right now. You know, if you want to do that, just pack them up in a plane and send them over there. Yeah, that solves two problems for you right there.
I've been telling people for a long time, you're a problem solver. There you go. Way to go. All right, let's move on to point number 4. Zelensky must know that all of the once deal stopping issues to peace have been de facto settled. Ukraine is now better armed than most NATO nations, but will not be in NATO, and no president has or will ever supply Ukraine with the armed wherewithal to take back the Donbass and Crimea. Those are parts of Russia. And again, we covered this in depth last night. We'll touch on it again tonight. So the only two issues are A, how far will Putin be willing to withdraw to his 2022 borders? And B, how will he be deterred? The first is answered by a commercial sector / tripwire joint Ukrainian U.S. Europe resources development corridor in eastern Ukraine, coupled with a Korea-like DMZ. The second by the fact that Putin, unlike his 2008-2014 invasions, has now lost 1 million dead and wounded to a Ukraine that will remain thusly armed. So speak to the comments of that point. I agree with it. We're not going to see Ukraine being part of NATO, but there are things that we can do that would discourage Putin from taking more pieces of Ukraine. I don't even see him as taking pieces of Ukraine.
He's taking back what belonged to Russia in the first place.
Well, and those people have specifically asked. They've said, we're Russian. We speak Russian. Our families have been Russian forever and a day, hundreds of years. We want to be repatriated. He sees this as a rescue mission, essentially.
That, and he's defending his borders because NATO put they put the biolabs on his border.
Right.
That was the biolabs, to me, pose more of a threat than any missile barrage you're going to put on that border. I mean, look at what they did with Charlie 19.
Yeah, you're right. Good choice of acronyms there. We're constantly flirting with strikes. We had a couple things last week related to Charlie 19, and we had just had one of our strikes roll off, and I kept thinking to myself, I wonder if it's going to get tacked back on. And immediately we dodged a bullet last week, but this is a new week. We'll see what happens this week. All right. Point number 5. What are Zelensky's alternatives without much U.S. help? Wait for a return of the Democrats to the White House in 4 years? Hope for a rearmed Europe? Pray for a Democratic House and a third Vindman-like engineered Trump impeachment, which, by the way, Vindman was on the talk circuit today and demanded that Donald Trump apologize to Zelensky. We'll get to that. We've got that video queued up. Or swallow his pride, return to the White House, sign the rare earth minerals deal, invite in the Euros. Are they seriously willing to patrol a DMZ and hope Trump can warn Putin, as he did successfully between 2017, 2021, not to dare try again? I personally agree with Trump. This would have never happened if Trump had been in office, but he knew the MO for the Obama administration, which is to say, don't do that. But then when somebody like Putin does do something or the Iranians do something, they're like, well, we told you don't do that, and that's it. There's no further repercussions.
Yeah,
So,
that works.
Yeah, just works great, right? So what do you think as far as Zelensky's choices are? I personally think he better get his ass back to the White House and get this solved, or they're going to be in deep trouble.
I think Zelensky at this point is just trying to figure out how he gets out of this situation alive. I mean, that's his only option.
Yeah. So how many foreign dictators or terrorists have we taken away money and supplying weapons to them, and then we just go in and kill them? It's happened time and again. I've got a slide coming up on that as well. So point number 6, if there is a ceasefire, a commercial deal, a Euro ground presence, an influx of Western companies into Ukraine, would there be elections? Because let's not forget, Zelensky has suspended elections. He claims he has 57%. Many people claim he has single digit support. And a big part of that is him sending his Gestapo out to kidnap Ukrainians and put them into his military and put them on the front line. Anyway, and if so, would Zelensky and his party win? And if not, would there be a successor transparent government that would reveal exactly where all the Western financial aid money went? Because as we mentioned in the slide, there has been no audit trail and no accounting for the money that stayed in Ukraine, what exactly it went to. But his wife could spend tens of thousands of dollars in France buying handbags, reportedly upwards of $1 million at Saks on Fifth Avenue, $4 million Bugatti that she bought in France. They have half a dozen mansions around the world, including one in South Florida, in a community where the property taxes start at $600,000 a year. You heard that right, $600,000 a year. It's the most expensive place in the world to live for property taxes. So your thoughts as to on returning to fair and open elections? I think it could go either way, but I think he stays in power because they want it.
Their parliament is already calling for his impeachment, for Zelensky's impeachment. That's a huge signal to me right there. That's not theater.
The problem is though that that's happened half a dozen times and it's never actually resulted in anything. So I don't disagree. There's strong sentiment there, but I think that the globalists will do whatever they can to keep their puppet in power.
Well, the only power that the globalists have over this is to starve Ukraine basically of any resources that they might need from the outside world. And they're already starting to try to apply that pressure here. I mean, we've got a huge fuel producer in Norway that's trying to put the squeeze on us because we patrol that area with our Navy. They won't refuel our naval vessels there. So
they are now. So that was a private company, and that was a guy who was on a tirade against Donald Trump. And finally, the Norwegian government came out and said, "No, you're gonna fill those subs up and other ships with whatever diesel they need, and not spark an international disaster between us and America." So that guy gets.
But the point is, you see where I'm going with that is that the WEF is the private sector, and they're going to try to put the squeeze on us and any other nations that they want to get involved in this thing. So what we have to do is to do our best as the United States of America to resist that squeeze. And the only way we do that is to be self-sufficient and not need them.
Yeah. By the way, here's our friend Velcro's comment. Let's all go down to Zelensky's property in Florida and squat. We actually have super strong squatter laws here, and we would get thrown out very quickly, unlike, say, New York State. All right, number 7, Zelensky might see a model in Netanyahu. The Biden administration was far harder on him than Trump is on Ukraine, suspending arms shipments, demanding ceasefires, prodding for a wartime bipartisan cabinet, hammering Israel on collateral damage, none of which Westerners have demanded of Zelensky. Yet Netanyahu managed a hostile Biden, kept Israel close to its patron, and when visiting was gracious to his host. Netanyahu certainly would never, before the global media, have interrupted and berated a host and patron president in the White House. So speak to the differences which are stark between Zelensky and Netanyahu. Whether you like Netanyahu or not, the guy is a skilled statesman.
Well, Netanyahu's been in politics forever. He's like old as Nancy Pelosi in that respect.
Exactly.
And I don't think the stark differences between Zelensky and Netanyahu. I think the stark differences between Biden and Trump is what we have to look at. Is now Netanyahu is basically coming to heel, whereas with Biden, Biden was trying to get him to do ceasefires and things like that. Well, okay, great, we got a ceasefire. Guess what? Israel just fucking threw another barrage of fucking missiles over there at Gaza. That really worked out well.
Right.
So basically, Biden would say, yeah, do this, and then come out and criticize him for it. And he's like, yeah, so what?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Number 8, if Ukraine has alienated the U.S., what then is its strategic victory plan? Wait around for more euros, hold off increasingly invigorated Russian military, cede more territory? What then are Zelensky's cards he seems to think are a winning hand? So Zelensky was led down the proverbial garden path by Klobuchar and the other crazy warmongers in our Senate and Congress, as they convinced him to do on Friday. I don't think he anticipated things going the way that they did, but the Democrats in particular, they wanted to get their, dog and pony show in front of a camera to say that Trump and Vance weren't very professional. But again, it's on record. Not only was Zelensky coached, he went off the rails in the private meeting before it even got in front of the press. Number 9, if one views carefully all the 50-minute tape, most of it was going quite well until Zelensky started correcting Vance firstly and Trump secondly. By Ukraine-splaining to his hosts and by his gestures, tone, and interruptions, he made it clear that he assumed that Trump was just more of the same compliant, clueless, moneybags Biden waxen effigy, and that was naive for such a supposedly world leader. And that was my point a couple minutes ago. The guy's not a statesman. He's a puppet. He's a professional actor, and he's in way over his head with Trump. If he thinks he's going to beat Trump at making a deal, he's stupider than I thought he was.
He doesn't have any cards to hold, and he doesn't understand that.
Well, he thinks he has Democrats to back him up, but they don't have the power other than their shadow government that they're running. All right, point number 10. March 2025 is not March 2022. After the heroic saving of Kyiv, but 3 years and 1.5 million dead and wounded later, Zelensky is no longer the international heartthrob with the glamorous entourage. He's postponed elections, outlawed opposition media and parties, suspended habeas corpus, and walked out of negotiations when he had an even hand in spring 2022, and apparently even now when he does not in spring 2025. Quo vadis Vladimir, and that's Latin for basically saying, where are you going next? So obviously he went straight to Europe with his hand out, and they've made some commitments resource-wise, money-wise. It's not enough. It's not going to save Zelensky. And if we don't get involved in this, if there's no mineral deal, I'll go on record saying right now, Russia will end up taking a whole bunch of Ukraine and not just the Russian parts.
The other part of this, Chris, they can give him all the money that they want. They don't have the arms to supply him. Where is he getting his arms from? He's getting it from us. If
Correct.
we don't give him arms, he's screwed. All of the euros in the world, if Trump says, yep, no more arms, bye.
Yeah, so the British gave him some, I'm not sure what category of missiles was announced today, but relative to what we've given, it's a tempest in a teapot sort of thing. So I'm not going to go through this whole thread because I've got some other tabs lined up on this, but watch this thread if you're trying to tell anyone that the Ukraine is not snatching people off the streets and force them to fight the Russians. Zelensky is a dictator. Vice President J.D. Vance called him out for doing this in their meeting. People are mercilessly grabbed and forced into the military. So this is the mother right here, and watch what happens. Red jacket's the mother. Here's her son.
Wasn't that kid autistic also?
There is one. They even had one who had Down syndrome. I have video of that we're going to play tonight as well. this is not an isolated video. There are ton of videos just like this.
And that's not Ukrainian military either. That's Azov Battalion.
Correct. So let me move on to the next one here. Oh, actually, the next one is the next point. So you know you're being fed a line of baloney when the entertainment industry figures come out and endorse something, like you said, Charlie 19 would be a great example of it, and saying, you know, we have to help Ukraine. We have to give them, we don't have to do any of this stuff, to be quite frank. It's not our war, and we should be staying the hell out of it. But if we are involved, which now we're at least $350 billion in, we should be getting something for it. But here we are back to the Mockingbird syndrome, I'll call it. So when all of the legacy media is repeating the exact same things, and you have idiots like Adam Schiff saying that Zelenskyy is now the leader of the free world, and then you have other people picking that up, whether they be media, entertainers, or politicians saying Zelensky's the leader of the free world. This is all theater. It's all BS. So right here, Juanita Broderick says, fuck Garth and Trisha. I second the sentiments on that. 51 seconds.
We stand with Ukraine, especially the refugees.
There's a global initiative, and of course, supplies and aid is already spread thin. And this is where you come in. We need your help. We need you to donate.
Yeah, I mean, we always ask for love and prayers. Please keep doing that. We're also going to ask you, dig in your pockets. Be part of the greatest global relief plan mankind has ever seen.
Everybody deserves dignity. Everybody deserves a roof over their head to feel safe. You can be a part of that.
Yeah, amen. So join us, won't you?
So pay attention to those words, by the way. I'm going to play the rest of this. But when she said the word dignity and a roof over their heads, Chuck Schumer and all of the rest of them have begun using the exact same language. So if you're on the wrong side of history on this one, which we have an element inside of America that eat this stuff up like there's no tomorrow, when everybody is singing from the same sheet of music with no originality, no different angle, exact same words, whether it's Mockingbird media or Mockingbird entertainers like this, it is not true. I don't know how we can drive that point home any better than we have, but some people, they drink the Kool-Aid and they want more Kool-Aid, which is, of course, in reference to Jim Jones. Let's play out the rest of this ridiculous display here.
Stand up for love.
Stand up for mankind.
Stand up for Ukraine.
Aye.
Stand up for Ukraine.
Aye.
Stand up for Ukraine.
So my message is to the people who are in New York protesting and the keyboard warriors out there. If you love Ukraine so much and you think we owe them so much and you think we need to be there, go ahead. Go volunteer. Go on over there.
Figure out which end of the gun fires first, though.
You know, pencil necks behind their keyboard making all kinds of threats and admonishing people and that know nothing. These are like your typical Redditors. Go. Because the last batch of Redditors that went to fight in Ukraine were dispatched very quickly by the Russians because they had no clue. S2, I want you to speak to this because this is something technical that anybody who has any military or law enforcement experience would know. All kinds of Redditors went over there and had no clue on the concept of secure comms, and their locations were easily triangulated. And when they were triangulated, what happened to them, S2?
He dropped a fucking bomb on them.
Literally within the first 48 hours of those clowns going there. So again, if you support Ukraine that much, give them your money, go to Ukraine and fight. We wish you the best of luck.
What do you expect? They were using Baofangs.
That's true, actually. A good point. $30 UVR5s, right? UV5Rs. All right. So I try to avoid playing longer videos, but I think I'm probably going to have to play most of this one because this wraps up our intro to chapter 1. Then I've got a ton of links in chapter 1 to really round out not just our thesis, but the reality of this situation. So this is RFK Jr. And he's actually, this is not current. This is maybe a year or two ago. And all roads, if you follow the money, all roads, one way or another, lead back to Blackrock. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Happen. It's a war the Russians tried repeatedly to settle on terms that were very, very beneficial to Ukraine and us. The major thing they wanted.
So just make a note of that. Russia over and over and over again attempted to diplomatically solve this with Ukraine on terms that were very favorable to the Ukraine, because the Donbass and the Crimea areas are Russians. They speak Russians. Their culture is Russian. They've been Russian for many hundreds of years, and Putin put all kinds of offers on the table to avoid this confrontation, and Zelensky told them to stuff it.
Was for us to keep NATO out of the Ukraine. The big military contractors want to add new countries to NATO all the time. Why? Because then that country has to conform its military purchases to NATO weapon specifications, which means certain companies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Boeing, and Lockheed, get a trapped market. In March of 2022, we committed $113 billion. Just to give you an example, we could have built a home for almost every homeless person in this country. We then committed another $24 billion since then, 2 months ago, and now President Biden's asking for another $60 billion. But the big, big expenses are going to come after the war, when we have to rebuild all the things that we destroyed. Mitch McConnell was asked, can we really afford to spend $113 billion to Ukraine? He said, don't worry. It's not really going to Ukraine.
It's going to American defense manufacturers.
So there's one more piece that backs up the diagram that we opened with, where I specifically said in that graphic that a portion of that money was flowing directly back to U.S. defense contractors who would benefit from this. Follow the money.
Just admit it, it's a money laundering scheme. And who do you think owns every one of those companies? BlackRock. So Tim Scott, during the Republican debate, said, don't worry, it's not a gift to Ukraine, it's a loan. So raise your hand if you think that that loan's ever getting paid back. Yeah, of course it's not. So why do they call it a loan? Because if they call it a loan, they can impose loan conditions. And what are the loan conditions that we impose on? Number one, an extreme austerity program, so that if you're poor in Ukraine, you're going to be poor forever. Number two, most important, Ukraine has to put all of its government-owned assets up for sale to multinational corporations, including all of its agricultural land, the biggest single asset in Europe. In Ukraine, there's been 1,000 years of war fought over that land. It's the richest farmland in the world. It's the breadbasket of Europe. 500,000 kids almost, Ukrainians, have died to keep that land as part of Ukraine. They almost certainly didn't know about this loan condition. They've already sold 30% of it. The buyers were DuPont, Cargill, and Monsanto. Who do you think owns all of those companies? Yeah, BlackRock. And then in December, President Biden gave out the contract to rebuild Ukraine. And who do you think got that contract? BlackRock. So they're doing this right in front of us. They don't even care that we know anymore, because they know that they can get away with it. And how do they know that? Because they have a strategy. And that strategy is an old strategy, which is they keep us at war with each other. They keep us hating on each other. They keep the Republicans and Democrats fighting each other, black against white, and all these divisions that they sow.
So S2 comments on all of this leading back to BlackRock.
Doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's I look at there was a couple of at least one of those names in there that I know is tied to the child sex trafficking that's going on, and that's General Dynamic. And the only reason I know about that is because I obtained a document from another CEO from another military contractor who had the people's names, email addresses, and phone numbers of General Dynamics personnel, executive personnel in that document. And this has been going on for quite some time. So like I said, it doesn't really surprise me at all.
All right. So this is going to be a bit of an eye test that I'm going back to the one I just had up briefly. This is the Blackrock world. So I know it's an eye test here, but if you look at the bottom, the yellow represents all of the continents, but these are the relationships. And Blackrock either owns all or a significant portion of every single corporation shown in this diagram. So look on the media side, CBS, Disney, NBC, American Movie Channel, Viacom, and a bunch of smaller ones, okay? ESPN, etc. What do they all have in common as far as their narratives are concerned?
I'm not following the question you're asking.
They've all been promoting the exact same degradation of American values for years now. Transgenderism, men and women's sports, alphabet, this, that, and the other thing. And this is all by design, right?
Yeah,
But
it's all set to demoralize. It's in that phase of that communist takeover that they thought they were going to be able to accomplish.
Correct. So at the end of the day, again, this is an eye test, obviously. If you want to see this diagram or other diagrams like it, just go to Yandex, yandex.com, do a search on BlackRock companies. You'll find all sorts of diagrams just like this. All right.
So moving on to all of the food companies that want to keep you sick too.
Correct. So this one here I pulled up because I wanted this to be a reminder for people. So when this war happened, initially, Zelenskyy fired a missile into Poland, who's a NATO member, and then tried to tell the world that it was Putin that did it. And it was easy to figure out that it came from Ukraine and not from the Russians. But he specifically bombed a NATO country to convince them to get into this war against Russia. I mean, people who accuse me of not knowing my history, which I do know my history, thank you very much, don't pay any attention to this stuff. Why? Because the mainstream media, the legacy media, buries this stuff. They don't want people to know about it. 36 seconds. Actually, let me back that up and I'll narrate it because I know it's too small for people on phones. Moreover, what we warned about a long time ago happened today. We've been telling this. Terror is not limited to our national borders. It has already spread to the territory of Moldova and today Russian missiles hit Poland and the territory of our friendly country. People died. Please accept condolences from all Ukrainian brothers. How many times has Ukraine said that the terrorist state will not be limited to our country? Poland, the Baltic states, it's only a matter of time before Russian terror goes further. We must put the terrorist in his place. So again, this is easy to confirm. This is not hard. It's not conspiracy theory stuff. Anybody who's willing to just put a little bit of work into finding all the stuff that's been suppressed out there, not too hard. All right. So I've got several tabs on this particular topic. I'll get us through this one as quickly as I can because this is actually the most important one of the next few tabs. Zelenskyy met with anti-Trump Democrats who advised him to turn down the mineral deal with President Donald Trump shortly before the Oval Office showdown. According to Democrat Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat Connecticut, President Zelenskyy met with a group of anti-Trump Democrats who told him to reject the terms of the mineral deal with President Donald Trump. The meeting with the Democrats took place Friday, shortly before Zelenskyy, Vice President J.D. Vance, and President Trump got into a heated clash in front of the press pool in the Oval Office. Murphy posting to X, just finished a meeting with President Zelenskyy here in Washington. He confirmed that the Ukrainian people will not support a fake peace agreement where Putin gets everything he wants and there are no security arrangements for Ukraine. That post was made at 11:15 a.m. Friday. Attached to that post was a picture of Zelenskyy at a conference table with Murphy seated on the opposite side. Less than an hour later, Zelenskyy showed up at the White House to meet President Trump. The reason for the meeting was to sign the mineral deal that Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Zelenskyy had already agreed to. We now know that after meeting with Murphy, Zelenskyy had no intention of signing it. The Democrats successfully stopped the mineral agreement and ceased fire that would have been signed, meaning thousands of people will continue to die every week in Ukraine. So let me just pull up a couple more quickly. Here's a short video from Speaker Mike Johnson. We are not Republicans at Survival Dispatch. We are all libertarians, lowercase L, conservative, MAGA. Don't really care for this guy. Do not think he's done a great job, but his comments are worth paying attention to here.
I have participated in a lot of bilateral meetings in my time with heads of state and other dignitaries. There's always a certain protocol that goes along with this. I've never seen anything like President Zelensky's behavior there. He berated and interrupted his host, and instead of expressing gratitude for the extraordinary help that the U.S. has provided his country and effectively helped him stay alive and stay in power. So the way that went down was very disappointing. I hope and pray, frankly, that President Zelensky will come to his senses, come back to President Trump, express gratitude as he should, apologize for his behavior there, and accept this mineral rights deal, because that is the best way for us to get to a point of peace over there in that region, and it's in the interest of both countries.
All right, let me get a couple more in before we comment here, S2. So this is from Richard Grenell, and he's back in the Trump circle, inner cabinet, whatever you want to call it. Obama's team, including Anthony Blinken, Victoria Nuland, Susan Rice, and Alexander Vindman, advised Zelensky to reject Trump's deal in violation of the Logan Act. So let's talk briefly on that topic. So number one, Susan Rice was essentially a surrogate of Obama's during this last 4 years, where you had an administration that was not inserted. They were installed. They did not win the election legitimately. And if you don't believe me, there's so much evidence out there, it's ridiculous. But tell me this then, answer this question for me. How did Obama in 2 elections, Hillary in 2016, Kamala in 2024, all get 65, 66, 67 million votes? But we're supposed to believe Biden got this 15 million extra votes in 2020 that evaporated in 2024, meaning that 15 million votes turned up in 2020 for him. And then the total number of whether they voted for one side or the other added up, 15 million votes just poof, gone, disappeared. The answer is pretty easy. It was because they cheated their asses off and they put multipliers on when they scanned ballots and sent the information off to Edison. They said, switch this one from Trump to Biden and put a 50 times multiplier on it. And the guy who wrote that software, his name's Dennis Montgomery. He was a CIA asset for years. That software was used to overturn 83 legitimate elections around the world prior to it being used against our own government. I don't know Dennis personally, but he's in my circle of friends, and I have a fair bit of information on that, and I come from high tech as well. So Susan Rice, I showed a diagram last night of where she lives, where Obama's home is in DC relative to the White House. And on a daily basis, she would go from home out of her way to Obama's, get her marching orders. She'd walk in empty-handed, leave with an attaché case, go to the White House and deliver orders for everybody. There is video and audio surveillance of that confirms everything that I've just said. If you don't want to believe it, there's no hope for you. But let me move on to the next one here. I want to get these ones out of the way. Cat Turd, rightfully so, says Democrats are the enemy of the USA. The Democrats sabotaged it. I'm shocked, not really, right? Tongue in cheek. Before meeting Trump, Zelensky met with anti-Trump Democrats. And there's a bunch of them in that picture. And you can see Chris Murphy's face right here. And the next one up, shadow government strikes again. They need to be charged and arrested. European leaders appear united behind Ukraine with a coordinated message, meaning Mockingbird, after White House smackdown. Did our own citizens advise them? Well, now we know that they did. So this brings us back to Richard Grenell's tweet or post of this being very serious. These 4 individuals, none of them hold a position in government right now. What are the consequences of interfering on international relations or convincing somebody from another government to do something that's not in our government's best interest? It's the Logan Act. What are the consequences of that, S2?
1994, the chart changing the penalty for violation from fine to $5,000 fine under this title. I don't really see where that's described.
It's sedition is really what I was getting at a high level. And here you go. So this is just before the meeting where Zelensky was coached. Why do you think Lindsey Graham so quickly pivoted to say that Zelensky was out of line because he knew he was screwed. And if you look back at the slide that I put up earlier, I don't know what Lindsey Graham's done with his money over the years, but he was worth next to nothing before the gravy train, Ukraine gravy train, came along. And this is Amy Klobuchar right here, the one who sabotaged Trump with the nutcase delivering the convocation at the Catholic Church the day after the inauguration, and also set this up with her, puppeteer strings on Zelensky to create a incident in the Oval Office.
Well, really none of them are authorized to make that deal either.
Correct.
I mean, this isn't a deal that's made through Congress. So at some point, this looks like a Blackrock intervention to me. And it smells like it has entanglements with China involved in it too at some certain point. But there should be some level of the Logan Act that applies to them as well, because they don't have that authority either. And basically, they interfered in that situation, in that deal making process.
There was a low-level member of Congress last week who traveled to Europe and got involved in some talks on this stuff before the meeting on Friday. Can't recall who it was, but the person went to a few different governments and said, ignore Donald Trump. The Democrats will look after you. We're essentially running the shadow government, which they have made no bones about, by the way. They've been bragging how they, right from day one after Trump won November 5th, they said, we're going to set up a shadow government. They publicly said it. But anyway,
it was our guy I think it was our representative from North Carolina that actually outlined it.
Yeah, it's craziness. So Zelensky knew exactly what he was doing. He never wanted peace. He thought he was still dealing with a brain dead Biden while he was being coached by anti-American traitors. But let's have a listen to this one.
So we were 40 minutes before the cameras came in and 45 minutes before the meltdown. And the fact was Zelensky never stopped asking for, I will give no concessions. They've got to leave my land. I want reparations of $300 billion. And I want the United States to give me security guarantees while they're at war with Russia. And that's why the president called it World War III. You're gambling with World War III. We're not going to give you security guarantees while you're at war with Russia. It's just ridiculous. His requests were ridiculous. They were not reasonable. The president let it go for a while, he was there to make peace. Our president is there to make peace. As he said, end the death. And Zelensky was not there to make peace. He was there to strike some sort of make-believe bargain that he had in his mind. And eventually that just ran its course. And Donald Trump said, I can't take this nonsense anymore, and made it crystal clear he's the peacemaker. And if Zelensky's not interested in peace, then he should go home and think about it.
I don't really have much more to add to that because we've been hammering that point. But I'll take us to the next one, which is a short interview, 32 seconds with Marco Rubio here. The sooner everyone grows up around here and figures out that this is a bad war that's heading in a bad direction, the more progress we're going to be able to make. But Trump is crystal clear. He is going to be a president that tries to achieve peace.
And the sooner everyone grows up around here and figures out that this is a bad war that's heading in a bad direction with death and destruction and all kinds of dangers surrounding it that could spiral into a broader conflict, the sooner people grow up and realize that, I think the more progress we're going to be able to make. But the president's crystal clear. He campaigned on it and he's going to govern on it. And that is, he is going to be a president that tries to achieve peace. And he has been very clear. This is a war that would have never happened had Donald Trump been in the White House, and it needs to end. And we're going to do everything we can to end it in an enduring and sustainable and fair way.
Do you want to comment on Rubio stuff? I mean, he was our senior senator here in Florida for many, many years, and his performance level has gone up by 1,000 times since he became the Secretary of State. I keep watching him thinking, who is this guy? He didn't behave like that when he was our senator here.
Well, growing up is probably a good way to put it, but the problem with it is you have to have a brain to understand what that means.
Right.
And I don't think any of the Democrats understand what happens if they bring their bullshit here. Which we've already seen where we've had some Chechnyans who they've sent over here to try to kill some of our special forces guys.
Right.
We've seen several instances out here. And if people don't think that They've been sending agents over here to provoke things here. People would be very, very sorely informed on that because we've seen a lot of covert actions going on here. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, it's just some random nut job going out there and stabbing somebody, or some random nut job going out there and shooting up a school. Okay, maybe those were American citizens, but they were radicalized by somebody.
Yeah, good point. I just want to address EMP's big adventure. So the best way to email us is support@survivaldispatch.com, which, by the way, Michigan Prepper, I don't know if he's in the audience tonight or not. We had an email exchange today, and he buried me in a bunch of history specific to Russia, this conflict, et cetera, et cetera. I'll be studying over the next couple of days, and I'll be bringing it to you this week. But the guy is a walking encyclopedia of all things Russian and Ukrainian. So let's move on to Tulsi Gabbard's input on this. And I'll let her say it in her own words. I'm going to play the whole video, 1 minute, 49 seconds.
Here is something that the political establishment and propaganda media don't want you to know. Ukraine's President Zelensky has just banned yet another political opposition party, one that questioned his legitimacy as president, and used Ukraine's Department of Justice to mandate the seizure of this party's members' assets. Now, this is just the latest of Zelensky's actions to do this sort of thing. He began banning major political opposition parties in 2022, when he also started banning TV channels that were associated with his political opponents. And he took over total control of Ukraine's largest television networks, now controlled by their government. Now, Zelensky's presidential term ended on May 20th. He canceled elections in the name of martial law, suspending Ukraine's constitution so that he could stay in power. Now, defenders of Zelensky will say, hey, Ukraine is in the middle of a war. They can't have elections. Just stop for a moment and think, if we accept that excuse or criteria for suspending the Constitution and canceling elections, then we should presume that leaders in our own country and our own establishment media will also use this same excuse and rationale when they suspend our Constitution and our elections, since we too are at war with Russia and China. If you think this sounds crazy, look at what's already going on. They've already started conditioning us to accept a dictatorship by rationalizing their own use of our Department of Justice to target President Trump and other political enemies in their efforts to stay in power.
Man, she absolutely nailed that, S2. I mean, I don't have anything to really add to that because she did such a great job, but you're welcome to.
She basically said the same thing I said in a different way.
The same thing, but different.
Yep.
That's what my good friend Lane Kelly in Tennessee always says to me. Yeah, it's the same, but different. So anyway, good comment here. This was the moment I understood something was off, July 2022. So airbrushed pictures in Vogue magazine of Zelensky and his wife, portraying them to be, well, I guess they were setting them up to become the leader of the free world, within the next several years after that, but just complete BS. Next one up, Peter Ducey's, all bets are off on the mineral deal with Ukraine unless Zelensky makes an explicit public apology, then all bets are off. Do you agree he should apologize? 33 seconds. Time for audience poll. If you think Zelensky should publicly apologize to Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and America in general, put a 1 in the live chat. If you think he shouldn't, put a 2 in the live chat. I want to see how the 1s and 2s. So if you think he owes us an apology, put a 1 in the chat. If you think he doesn't owe us an apology, put a 2 in the chat. All 8 platforms are good to go.
I heard from somebody on the Trump team who was in the room for these negotiations and was talking about how something that is lost in all of this is that it started out so warmly, but that now moving forward, unless what I'm told by this person, it's ultimately up to President Trump, but that at this point, unless Zelensky makes an explicit public apology, then all bets are off for this mineral deal. And things are just going to be at a standstill.
So 8 platforms, everybody's a 1 except for one particular individual is a 2 who says we owe Zelensky an apology. We gave him $350 billion. We don't owe him the sweat off of our bag, to be quite frank. So if you think we owe him an apology, by the way, Peter, why don't you make some large donations, and you should probably fly over there and fight the evil Russians. Be on Ukraine's side. Go ahead. We'll buy your ticket for you.
And a little piece of information that maybe a lot of people don't know. So on his way out, he muttered something to J.D. Vance under his breath that a lot of people probably didn't catch. Basically, I had a friend of mine translate it for me, and he basically called J.D. Vance a bitch whore.
Yeah, well, this Peter guy now says J.D. Vance is low IQ. The only person who has a low IQ is you, Peter. You know, there's an old adage that says sometimes it's better to be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. I predict right now that the retard finder will stumble upon you. So
I would rather Peter please explain his position on this so that we understand where he's coming from on this, because, you know, we put our viewpoints out there. I think it's important that we hear what their viewpoints are as well, but I don't think we're going to get that.
No, it's always bullshit. So I mean, maybe based on his latest comment here, he's lost family members. Well, then by all means,
you should go save them. You should go save them.
Exactly. Go save. It's not our war, period.
Instead of being a coward and staying here and running your mouth.
Yeah, it's not our war at the end of the day. If you lost family members, sorry to hear that, but you can blame Zelensky, not us. If you're Ukrainian, we gave you guys $350 billion. We don't owe you one more red cent, period. End of story. You guys owe us big time. Your whole country would be folded up and gone to hell.
We didn't owe them anything in the first place.
Correct. So, and now they're censoring Billy, my buddy Billy from back home in Texas, because he used the word dumbass. And by the way, they also censored Velcro and kicked him off of Rumble. So he's on the chat on Liberty Club. Anyway, that's why we built Liberty Club, to make sure that people could still voice their opinion. All right. The 2024 election, one candidate was vowed to indefinitely fund war in Ukraine. Her name was Kamala. She lost. The other Trump vowed to stop U.S. funding and end the war. He won. A few Manhattan liberals, idiotically spelt wrong, wrapping themselves in a foreign flag doesn't change that. So Ed Krasenstein, all 99 pounds of this homo, Americans are showing up in huge numbers in Times Square to support President Zelensky in Ukraine. Again, if you people support Zelensky, go. No, we're not stopping you. Go to the Ukraine, sign up, fight the Russians, give them all your money, put your life on the line, go. We don't owe them anything. It's not our war.
Chris, then we wouldn't have anybody to participate in the rent-a riots.
This is true. Absolutely. So even the British ambassador to the U.S. right here, Zelensky needs to give his unequivocal backing to the initiative that President Trump is taking to end the war and bring a just and lasting peace. 1 minute, 11 seconds.
We need a very radical reset, as you say in the caption behind you. And the reset has to consist of the United States and Ukraine getting back on the same page, and President Zelensky giving his unequivocal backing to the initiative that President Trump is taking to end the war and to bring a just and lasting peace to Ukraine. And the Europeans, George, too, they need to back the calls for a ceasefire. And by the way, I think that Ukraine should be the first to commit to a ceasefire and defy the Russians to follow. And then as part of the unfolding plan for this negotiation, the Europeans and perhaps some other countries too have got to consider how they are going to put forces on the ground to play their part in providing enduring security and deterrence for Ukraine. Now, that's the reset that we're looking for. That's what the British Prime Minister is working for in his.
So anyway, interesting comments from him. I didn't expect an ambassador from England.
That actually sounded pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, I was going to say to support our position so strongly, but good stuff. So in 2022, NBC was reporting that Joe Biden lost his temper with Zelensky because he wasn't grateful and he was very demanding. And I remember when that happened. So Elon retweeted this here saying not much has changed. 1 minute, 9 seconds.
Yeah, that's right, Kate. So in this conversation, President Biden called President Zelensky to tell him about a roughly $1 billion package of additional equipment and weapons for the Ukrainian military coming from the United States. During the course of the call, President Zelensky continued, according to a number of officials who we spoke with who are familiar with the call, President Zelensky continued to talk about the additional equipment and weapons and support that he and his military needed. According to these officials, they said that President Biden finally just got frustrated and lost his temper and told President Zelensky, look, you could be a little bit more grateful. The reason that this story is interesting to us and is something that we are reporting on and officials are speaking to us about is because it shows that all these months ago, President Biden already realized that there was going to be a point where the American people, members of Congress, where people would start potentially pushing back on all these billions and billions of dollars of aid and equipment that the U.S. has been providing to Ukraine. And he knew that the narrative out there needed to be that the Ukrainian people and President Zelensky were grateful for it if this was good.
Yeah, so nothing surprising there. I remember when that happened. So, J.D. Vance, you're running out of troops and forcing men into the service to be slaughtered by the dozens. Zelensky, oh, really? Where did you get that info? And that was the exchange that happened on Friday. And here we go. Yesterday, Zelensky's military recruiter snatched another young man off the street, threw him into a black van as he screamed, and left behind his dog. There are literally thousands of videos of Zelensky's, Gestapo doing this. And I have a few videos queued up in a row here. Play this one first. So the only reason I let it play that long is you can see his dog right here, which they left behind. Here goes another one. It's so easy to sit in European capitals or nice U.S. TV studios and cheer war in Ukraine, all to derive a feeling of purpose and self-esteem because those being sent to die are not them, but Ukrainians violently dragged off the street and sent as cannon fodder to the front lines. Have the Americans who hang Ukrainian flags to signal their support for more war in that country seen these videos? Here's another one. It's a shorter one, 16 seconds. All right, and next one up. So this is a compilation of a dozen videos into one. I'm going to turn the sound down on my end.
Chris, before you play that, can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
I want to ask this question to Peter Portev. How can you justify that?
What's he trying to justify?
What we just saw. How can you justify that?
Well, it gets worse. So good question. But how can anybody justify it? It's absolutely brutal, but check this one out. Sorry. So actually, quick correction. There are a dozen squares, but some of them that are shorter videos. Those squares play another video, another video, and another video of this kidnapping that's gone on to try and basically conscript people against their will to fight. And then S2, this is similar to what you mentioned here. And I remember when this one came out as well. This is one of the most disturbing things I've ever watched that's come out of Ukraine. Poor kid with Down syndrome made to serve on the front lines.
Во! Що там, малий?
Чергую.
А де твій автомат?
Не дали ще, сказали в бою.
Чуєш, а то як його? Москалів їбашить будеш?
Москалів.
Ваха, вихід! Вихід, блядь!
Fucking Nazis.
Yeah, that's so brutal. Absolutely brutal. Okay, next one up. Big difference if it's not you or your child being conscripted to die in the trenches. So let me click through to this one. Women in, not sure how to pronounce the name of this Ukrainian city, Mykolaiv perhaps, demand the release of the children and husbands that were forcefully mobilized. 2, Ukrainians in New York demand more weapons so Ukrainians in Ukraine can be sent to war. Besides the hypocritical cowardice, I don't know what else to say. And we've been saying all night, we're going to keep saying it. If you truly support Ukraine in this war, sign up and go fight. You can be part of their foreign legion. There's places where you can find out how easy it is to volunteer for their foreign legion. Go fight in Ukraine. It's not our war. We've already been raped at a bare minimum to the tune of $350 billion. And all that's done is enrich, the greediest people in our society here, and 1.5 million dead or injured. If you're that passionate over what's going on, go.
No, we were held at gunpoint and told that that's what we were going to do. It was no different than what's going on over there now.
I don't disagree. So 36-second video.
Bunch of fags and retards.
All right. So the latest victim of censorship on YouTube is Michael, who says, why can't his dumbass go fight on the front line? So I'll approve that as well. And again, this is the very specific reason why my good friend Todd Callender engaged my team to build Liberty Club, which is a next generation social media site predicated on freedom of speech and no censorship. We just launched it last week. There's no algorithm. So there's no manipulation of people's posts or anything like that. We don't censor people like this. The only things that will be taken down on Liberty Club are pornography or anything illegal. Everything else goes. And people don't know what they don't know. They don't get to see it, right? So I get to see, I'm watching, I've got here, so you guys can see if you haven't seen it before. So I have 4 screens in front of me here, split up into multiple different windows. And I have 2 screens over here that I monitor everything on. And so I will see things pop up constantly on our big YouTube channel that has 428,000 subs. It's not unusual for me to see one after another saying this message has been, essentially stopped by YouTube. Do you want to hide it or do you want to approve it? And it's always simple things like you can't use the word dumbass. We don't have any, words programmed. You can go into YouTube Studio and say if somebody uses this word or that word to automatically ban them. We don't do any of that stuff whatsoever. We get constant hate mail from people saying you deleted my comment. No, we didn't. And I really hate being accused of something we didn't do, because our own comments, I mentioned this last night, I'm going to mention it again. I can go and respond to a comment on one of our videos as the Survival Dispatch account on YouTube. Then I can go back to my personal account under my name, Chris Heaven, and the comment from Survival Dispatch never shows up. So then I can log back in as Survival Dispatch and go check it out. And the comment, it says one more comment, but there's nothing below it because they removed our comment because it, whatever, censorship sort of thing, right? And again, it's the total reason that I agreed to take on the Liberty Club project for Todd Callender. YouTube and Google are not going to change. They're going to keep censoring you. Zuckerberg's full of shit. We broadcast to Facebook and our videos get taken down all the time. He has done nothing to improve the censorship situation other than lip service. Elon has changed things at a macro level, but at a micro level, there's a ton of code under the hood at X that still penalizes people who are patriotic, conservatives, Christians, etc. Elon doesn't care about the minutia, and I wouldn't either if I was in his situation. But we get suspended, we get suppressed on X frequently for suggesting somebody who broke the law should face consequences for it. So again, we built Liberty Club. So tonight, Velcro, for example, Kevin, I see you commented over here, one of our moderators and one of my most favorite people in the whole Survival Dispatch universe, that Velcro is not on the muted list. They don't have to be on the muted list to get kicked out by Rumble. That's only when somebody like a moderator has to kick somebody out, Kevin. So Velcro wouldn't even show up on that. But he's over here on the Liberty Club chat. And again, that was the purpose of doing that. So, okay, next one up. Look at all those people shilling for Ukraine. If you want to send your personal treasure or spill your personal blood for Ukraine, then do it. Stop talking about it. And don't sit here and lecture a country who just spent 2 decades sacrificing our blood and treasure on war. So it's the same 5-second video from Ed Krasenstein. Not interested in playing it. Next one up, cat turd here, Tulsi Gabbard on fire. The longer this war drags on, more Ukrainians die and the risk of World War III grows. That's a cost President Trump refuses to accept. She's so articulate and she comes from a position of experience that I'm going to play the whole minute and 17 seconds. Next to Rubio, she's my number 2 for most improved politician in 2025.
Really, there's 2 viable paths here. One is that this war continues on as it has for over 3 years. More and more Ukrainians will lose their lives. More and more of the country of Ukraine will be decimated and destroyed in this, what will continue to be essentially a war of attrition. And to what end? To what outcome? President Trump sees this reality. So the alternative to this, which he is so intent on, which he talked about continuously throughout his campaign, that the American people voted for, is his commitment to ending this war and bringing about peace. That requires bringing interested parties to the table to conduct these negotiations. Of course, both sides are going to have their arguments and their interests that they are fighting for. This is the reality of how these negotiations always occur during times of war. Neither side is going to be happy, very likely, with the outcome, but ultimately it needs to lead to peace. And that's what President Trump is so committed to, because he recognizes that the longer this goes on, not only are more Ukrainians losing their lives, but it increases the potential of this escalation towards World War III that he warned against as he sat there with Zelensky, saying that he's gambling with World War III, and that's not a cost that President Trump is willing to accept.
Very well said on Tulsi's part. All right.
There's one other path.
Go ahead.
We completely withdraw everything and just y'all duke it out. Whoever wins, wins.
Yep. Well, I think President Trump said something to that effect. You know, you can all fight it out, but I don't think it's going to end the way you want it to end, is what he said to him. But here's the next one up from RFK. It's a verified account, but this has got somebody like a lower level staffer that's on it. This isn't his main account. This tweet risks being reported and restricted, but I see a necessity to say it out loud. Our real enemy isn't Russia or Ukraine. It's not even China. It's the ones who induced and tried to perpetuate wars so they can launder billions of our money into their own pockets. It's the ones who funded revolts and instability all over the world via USAID. It's the ones who have committed unspeakable crimes on children on an island and held themselves above the law. It's the ones who manipulate people with endless propaganda using our tax dollars. It's the ones, it's the ones who have sown so much division among our own people. It's the ones who shot my dad, my uncle, and Donald Trump in the head. It's the ones who have poisoned our own people for years just so they can profit more. They're the same group of people, and we will not stop until we splinter them, the deep state, into 1,000 pieces and reclaim our country. Pretty much everything in that response is in your wheelhouse, S2, so go ahead and take a swing at
that. I can't say that I agree more.
No, I know you agree, but I mean, as far as the paid parties that,
like, yeah, I mean, you had the Victoria Nulands. The reality of it is that what's happened in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine has been a collaboration between NATO and our State Department. That's the reality of it. We did this. We put them in their positions, just like they tried to divide us in our country, just like they've tried to divide other nations to try to conquer them and get what they want. They put us in this position, and now they don't want to let us deal with it. They want to continue it on into perpetuation for a number of reasons, whether it could be for depopulation, whether it could be for conquering a country, seizing the resources. It's all about money. Always. And the question is are you going to burn down the world to rule over its ashes? Because there's nothing left.
I mentioned that Sun Tzu adage last night. It's interesting that you would bring it up, but very true. So sometimes a meme says 1,000 words, like this one here. So you've got all these people who they believe everything in the legacy media. They believe everything the Mockingbird media says. They believe everything that the politicians say, you know, when they're just bought and paid for. They believe every piece of propaganda put in front of them. And yet they accuse the rest of us being brainwashed, when in reality, we're running out of conspiracy theories because they all keep coming true. We said that the government had access to social media platforms and were censoring people. The leftards and the rhinos were like, no, you're full of shit. That didn't happen. Now we know across the board around the world, Facebook, Twitter, all of them, YouTube, Google, had given full unfettered access to government agencies around the world to delete comments, suppress users, delete users off platforms completely if they spoke out, as you so eloquently stated, against Charlie 19. So again, we're running out of conspiracy theories, and like the bumper sticker in the shirt says, Donald Trump was right about everything. So anyway,
Peter Forte, I'm going to tell you this: Russia is not the enemy. Ukraine is not the enemy. It's exactly as it was just stated there. It's the people that start these wars, and it's not countries that start them. Get your head out of your ass and get your head screwed on right.
Well, some people never will. And like I said, I've had a deluge of hate mail in the past 48 hours. It cracks me up. But anyway, doesn't matter. Elon Musk said this quite well. And actually, your last comment, S2, really actually relates to this meme. So you've got all of the pawns are dead, and you've got the kings and queens fine dining at their table while it all happens. So Zelensky and his wife getting grotesquely rich while sending 1.5 million people either to their death or grievous injury. Couldn't describe it better. I mean, it's a great meme. All right, next one up. So this will be 4 days ago today, because it was posted March 2nd. In Ukraine, the rich go to the Bukovel ski resort in Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast, while the poor are sent to the meat grinder. This video was posted 4 days ago. We've seen all kinds of videos like this of Ukrainians living the high life because they're wealthy, and the ones who aren't wealthy essentially being kidnapped and sent to the front lines. All right, I think everybody gets the picture from that. Partying, having a good old time on our money. All right, from John Rocker, let all these loser socialists deal with Ukraine from now on. European leaders hold an emergency meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky in London. They can deal with him and his demands. Good luck.
Right. Thank you. Thank you.
You can put that picture on your wall when they come for you.
I would safely bet that at least 50% of the people that were in that picture, like Justin Trudeau right here, and I know his name's Trudeau, we call him Trudeau because he's a turd, are graduates of Klaus Schwab's World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders program. He likes to brag about how he's implanted people like Trudeau.
No, they had some pretty old folks in there too.
That's why I said 50%, about 50. But also keep in mind that he started the Young Global Leaders program in the early 1990s. WEF was started in 71, but Young Global Leaders early 1990s. But that's why I said half, though, because people Trudeau's age are clearly members of it. All right, moving on to another shithead, for lack of a better term.
Waterhead.
Yeah. So Adam Schiff, who accepted a preemptive pardon from a lawless president to cover for his crimes, thinks he speaks for America. So you don't need a pardon unless you're guilty of something. He said that before he even got the pardon from Biden for his involvement in the J6 committee, where they broke the law by coaching witnesses repeatedly. Him, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, and the rest of them. Okay. But I would say our allies around the world, what they witnessed today, or to our allies, what they witnessed today might be Donald Trump, but it's not America. Minute and 17, I'm going to let it play just because people need to hear this guy lie over and over and over again. And I'll tell you what, if Pam Bondi doesn't go after people like him, I'm going to be extremely disappointed in Trump's DOJ.
Well, to the people of America, I want to just say this is not who we are. This is not who we are. We don't bully an ally. We don't take the side of a dictator. We don't ignore the long and important role that we have played in defending democracy. That is not who we are. We're just not what we saw displayed by the President of the United States today. And I think we all have a role to play right now in the defense, not just of Ukraine, but of what the country stands for, of our values. I would say to our allies around the world, what they witnessed too might be Donald Trump, but it is not America. And
so he was the first one off the starting line with this. Zelensky is the leader of the free world. And within an hour, that was the next talking point, which they were all repeating over and over and over again, whether they be clowns like him in the government or the legacy media or Hollywood types. Zelensky is the leader of the free world now. He ain't the leader of nothing.
Oh, have you caught the piece with the EU today? Where all of the members of the EU were basically fucking parodying each other and everything that they said to Zelensky?
I caught part of it. I didn't dive too deep into it, but not surprising. That's what they always do. So this is unverified. Okay. And I'm just saying that because I wouldn't stake my life on it, but by the same token, I wouldn't necessarily bet against this. So Ukrainian officials released the kickback numbers that they gave U.S. politicians. Joe Biden, 92 million, Mitch McConnell, 89 million, Nancy Pelosi, 86 million, Chuck Schumer, 66 million, Lindsey Graham, 82 million, Mitt Romney, 71 million, John Cornyn, 41 million, Adam Schiff, 62 million, Dan Crenshaw, 20 million, Elizabeth Cheney, 77 million, Kevin McCarthy, 42 million. I can't verify the people or the numbers on there other than a handful that I did quite a bit of research on. It was easy to find that there were shady NGOs attached to them. And S2 mentioned it right off the bat. Jamie Raskin, in one particular NGO, $160 million sitting in an offshore account with his name on it. So this next one here is the last part of chapter 1. I know this has been a really long chapter 1, probably the longest one in history. Usually we wrap it up in an hour. We're in an hour and 40 minutes. So we have a very short chapter 2 tonight. But let me refresh this, because it was 26,000 votes before we started. So 26,282 votes. On which side should the USA be in this war? 11% out of the 26,000 say Ukraine, 14.8% say Russia, 74.3% say neutral. And it's interesting because when you hear these so-called professional polls, they average around 1,000 people that they poll. That's it. And they always oversample. They like to oversample, meaning 50% Democrats, 35% Republicans, 15% independents. And before somebody jumps our shit and says we're idiots for supporting the Republicans, we're not Republicans. Just make that perfectly clear. We've been saying for many years, Republicans and Democrats, two different sides of the same coin. Now people call them the uniparty. I don't care what you call them. We are not them. We are MAGA. We are Trump supporters. We are Christian conservatives. We are not Republicans. So I don't care. You can say all the crap you want about Republicans. Doesn't apply to us. It's not our deal. So anyway, that's the end of chapter 1. Boys, it was a long one. We've got a short message from our friends at Sawyer Products. We'll be right back.
The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
All right, so check this out, S2. This is pretty cool. So this is one of our neighbors, and they had a huge oak tree. If I had to guess, the circumference of it was probably 8, 9, 10 feet. And the last hurricane we had destroyed it and took it down. And the guy who lives here, I had no idea. His name's Van. I had no idea that he was this talented. He left the stump and he turned it into an eagle, and he's got it all refinished. And he just put that Liberty sign on there, which I thought was pretty interesting. This picture was taken yesterday, by the way. So that's carved out of the stump. What was left of it, the tree broke off up here above the eagle's head. So he carved this entire eagle out of the stump. Pretty cool.
He should have put the sign on it, still standing.
Yeah. He's a cool guy, cool retired guy into sports cars and all kinds of cool stuff. But all right, moving on. All right, first one, America and European Union are at a crossroads. The European Union needs America, but America does not need the European Union. But it's not just U.S. taxpayer support for NATO that the European Union needs to provide for its own security. It needs America's military presence and war-fighting ability. The great majority of Europeans are unwilling to fight in wars to defend their nations from foreign aggressors. One reason is because the EU has imported millions of migrants who have no loyalty to the governments or interest in preserving national cultures. If you compare non-EU European states with EU member states, you'll find a shocking difference. 61% of the former are willing to fight in wars as opposed to just 32% in the latter, according to 2024 Gallup polling. Popular support for EU member states is crumbling. This is why the European Union needs an external enemy to focus on, such as Russia, to rally around the flag. But in the EU's case, it is the Ukraine flag. That cause is wearing thin. While many believe Russia is a strong and united foe that will threaten Europe, this is a false perception. Only 32% will say on the record that they will fight in wars, while 20% say they won't, and 48% say they don't know. It should be noted that this is illegal in Russia to say that you won't fight in a war. This is one cause for discrepancies you might find on Reddit and elsewhere that shows higher support in Russia. The United States has been experiencing its own collapse in popular support, which the Trump administration is attempting to reverse. Support for fighting in wars has been dropping in the U.S. since the first Gulf War, but it fell even further behind under Biden. Gallup polling shows that only 41% of Americans would be open to fighting in wars. This has led to a crisis in military morale and a drop in recruitment. It will be a major challenge for the Trump administration to restore America's willingness to fight. The Trump administration has a chance to accomplish this task because it is rejecting the disastrous path that the European Union has taken. By securing the border and limiting foreign migration, reforming the military so that it focuses on warfighting, respecting the constitutional rights of citizens, and seeking a foreign policy of peace through strength, the Trump administration can return America to its rightful place as a strong and great nation. Now, check out this graphic. So if you look, let's take Africa out of the equation for a minute. Look at the Western world. So the UK and the rest of Europe, Canada, United States. You've got some very low numbers here. 33% in the UK, 34% in Canada, 41% here. Latin America higher at 58%. But let's go on over here and look at India, Southeast Asia, 76%, 77%, 73%, and then back to Russia, 32% of people that would go to war. It's pretty interesting numbers.
I would say our values align more with Russia's.
So that's funny you should say that. I saw Chris Christie cutting up Donald Trump on the talk shows today, saying that it looks like Donald Trump is, basically carrying water for Vladimir Putin again, the Russia baloney, right? And I don't see it that way at all. Trump doesn't stand anything to gain by peace as far as we're concerned monetarily, right? We can make a lot more money by promoting war over there and backing the war with our military industrial complex. But the reason I say your comment's interesting, I made a comment a couple of years ago on SDN where I said I have more in common with Vladimir Putin and Russia's value system now than I have with half of the country in America, because they do not support transgenderism. They do not support telling people you can cut your dick off and become a girl. And realistically, we're the largest Christian nation in the world, and number 2 is Russia. And like you said earlier and just now, we share much more in common with them as far as values are concerned than we do with all of these other countries. It's ironic. I find it highly ironic. All right, F-16s are scrambled and deploy flares as 3 planes caught circling near Trump's Palm Beach resort. Would love to have one of you anons look up the flight history and get the 3 aircraft call signs ownership if possible. So, Velcro, I'm assuming that you're aware of this, and I see you're still on the Liberty Club chat. If you know anything about this, hit me up in the Liberty Club chat and let me know. And if not, maybe before tomorrow night's episode, you could let me know what came out of this. But we've been saying for quite some time that Mar-a-Lago is vulnerable in particular to a drone attack. One operator can control up to 15,000 drones now. So imagine an operator gets within, let's say, 4 or 5 miles of Mar-a-Lago and launches 25 drones. The Saudis launched 20 drones in 2019, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard did, and hit a fuel refining plant in Saudi Arabia, knocked out 5% of the world's oil production inside of 20 minutes. One operator, 20 drones. But imagine Mar-a-Lago was attacked by 50 drones, small drones launched simultaneously, each carrying a payload, whether it be kinetic explosives or something like aerosolized fentanyl or aerosolized anthrax. There's reportedly 2 secure rooms in Mar-a-Lago, and I've been to Mar-a-Lago. My wife and I have been to Mar-a-Lago for a fundraiser with Border 911. That's assuming that you have time to get into those rooms. If drones come out of nowhere and fly into Mar-a-Lago, I'm sure there's plenty of reinforcements that aren't made public, but it would have the potential to end very badly. Airspace is a big deal. All right, next one up. Doctors Committee opposing RFK as Bill Gates-backed AstroTurf with fake names. So recently, there was a paper published with 17,000 doctors on it that were against RFK Jr. Putting the beat down on Big Pharma. And Bill Gates, of course, is heavily vested in that. And he sees himself as this, I don't know what you want to call it, world leader. And he's going to save the world by making you eat fake meat, eat the bugs, Get rid of all the cows because their farting causes 5% of the CO2 in the atmosphere. Well, those of us from the tech industry, and I used to be an evangelist on behalf of Sun, I would speak against Microsoft and for Unix and Linux stuff. We've known about Bill Gates' penchant for using astroturfing forever and a day. He's done this from his early days at Microsoft through his entire career. So what's astroturfing? Astroturfing means that you finance and organize something that looks like it's a grassroots effort when it's anything but grassroots. And he got caught again. Doesn't matter how many times this guy gets caught, he keeps going back to the same playbook of funding and organizing stuff that would skew things his direction. In reality, it's not grassroots at all. All right, S2, I'm going to have you comment on this next one for sure, because here's a level of insanity in the UK. We've been saying England's lost for at least 2 years now. And if you stand outside, let's say, and you're praying in your head, but you're not saying and you're not carrying a sign, you can and will go to jail for thought crimes now. I'm not making this up. You can research it. There were several people from the UK just interviewed on 60 Minutes. Sorry, that was Germany, who discussed this at length as well. That if you were standing in the window of your home and you were praying for something and you were in close proximity to an abortion clinic and somebody walked by in the sidewalk and saw you standing in the window praying in your head, that's a thought crime that can get you put in jail. They threw 3,000 hardened criminals out of prison last year in the UK early to make room for people who hurt somebody's feelings by insulting them with an online post. And the sentences and the fines go up as the person becomes more notorious, like a public figure. This is too much. So now, S2, they're going to go door to door to people's homes to make sure that they have a TV license, because the TV, the media has always been controlled by the government in Great Britain. 57 seconds.
I live in England and I just got sent a letter in the mail saying that an officer's coming to visit me at my house. And you're probably thinking, Dalla, what? Are you a criminal? Well, it fucking turns out that I am. Why you're being visited? To ensure you have a fucking TV license. And this includes Amazon. You need a fucking license to watch TV. What the fuck kind of rule is that? You can't even watch Netflix on your laptop without needing a license. 170 fucking pounds? Are they taking the piss? Like, Jesus fuck, there's a cost of living crisis. We got wars. We got fucking knife crime and 20,000 phones getting snatched every 14 seconds. And they're coming after me for fucking not paying for a license to watch fucking Game of Thrones while I'm having a rip. What the fuck is wrong with this country?
Total control freaks. So before you comment, S2, here's a couple things. So Robert Robertson, 4 years of darkness with criminals in charge. Peter, shut the hell up. Got flagged by YouTube. So I'm going to approve that. And I haven't been watching the conversation, but I'm sure Robert's on the right side of that one from what I can tell. And then there's another one that got censored by YouTube from Kurtz. I bet Gates kisses claws on the lips. Little dweeb. That got censored. So I'm going to show that one as well. All this stuff, I have not run across a single censored comment on YouTube that I've not approved. But S2, speak to this nonsense going on here.
Yeah. Headspace he's got it right. This dude's from Australia to begin with. So he might live in the UK, but this is nothing new. They've had TV licenses for years.
Right.
It's nothing new.
No, that's what I said. They've had control of the airwaves forever. It's 100% government.
Well, it's another fucking grifting scam to be able to fleece the citizens to be able to watch what comes over the airspace for free. They have no way of really fucking tracing that other than fucking triangulating somebody's house.
So a couple quick things. Our buddy Billy from back home in Texas. Peter, thanks, but that's life. What I've always said is it is not the people of the world, but it's the governments of the world. They live, we die. They don't fight on the front lines, but we should. And he's absolutely right. I mean, there's many times we've said on SDM, we don't have a problem with people from a particular country. We have a problem with the governments that are running the show. And then another one, I'm not going to mention his name because it's sensitive information, but one of our followers on one of the 8 platforms we're broadcasting to sent me a very long email during the broadcast. I only had a chance to quickly scan it. The person who sent me that email, don't worry, we won't disclose any of that. We're not going to disclose your name, but the person included a bunch of pictures and some stuff that has been getting them harassment from the powers that be. Appreciate you sending that. We'll cover some of it at a high level at some point in the future so that it doesn't tie back to you, but we would never turn in any of our sources. All right, next one.
Chris, take it. I want to take a second here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to give Peter Portev some credit here, okay?
Okay.
The folks in the chat have been talking to him. They've been having a conversation over here, and he seems to have calmed down a little bit in here, and he's having conversations with people in here. So I think we're a little calmed down on that front.
Oh, that's great news. I appreciate the update as to for anybody else, man. We've got such a great audience. Earlier today, I got a message on Liberty Club, and it was, I don't know if the person wants me to mention their name, so I won't mention it, but I do appreciate the feedback, and was asking about audio. You know, if there's ever going to be a problem with a video, it's always audio related. So at a very high level, unless we're all sitting in the same studio, and unless you have some expensive equipment and software, it's really hard for us to manage everybody's volume level, video volume levels. Like sometimes the video is ridiculously low, sometimes it's ridiculously high. I get it. It's annoying as all get out. If we had an easy way to deal with it, we would. But there's a couple things. Number one, we don't have the expensive hardware and software to control everybody's audio stream. Typically, that's, you know, higher end equipment. We don't have the manpower for it. So tonight, for example, with just S2 and me, S2 monitors the chats more so than I do. I'm trying to queue everything up like a producer would do. Plus, we're trying to have a conversation. All the large podcasters have a producer who looks after all this stuff in the back end. And you'll see somebody like AJ or whoever with their paper notes, but they don't have to worry about putting one thing up, the next thing up, getting it queued up. So, you know, apologize on the audio side, but it's really at this particular point in time out of our hands. Unless we had a producer and we had that sophisticated equipment and software to go with it, we just can't do it. But I will say this, the reason I say our followers are amazing, this particular person said that they would put money in towards the equipment, and I can't thank you enough, you know, for saying that. But we'll get back to the matter at hand here. So Chuck Schumer, no good business operator would take the approach that Doge is taking. 33 seconds. This guy has been a worthless civil servant his entire career. I don't know who he thinks he is lecturing those of us who've been entrepreneurs our entire career, but this guy has zero validity in making these types of comments, not to mention the fact that he's just overall, he's another, you know, actor, theatrical actor. There's no other way to state it.
9/11 families deserve to be treated with dignity, with respect, not with the contempt we see from Doge. And no good business operator would take the slash and burn approach Doge is taking. People's Social Security benefits.
So I'm going to stop right there. They absolutely would. If you are $36 trillion in debt, you would absolutely slash everywhere you possibly could to right the ship, because any businessman knows, businesswoman, that is not sustainable. This guy has zero credibility commenting on this stuff. Now he's going to go into the Medicare, Medicaid stuff, which unless you're 150 to 350 years old, nobody's taking away your Social Security.
Benefits are also at risk. Their ability to see a doctor is at stake. Their ability to put kids in daycare is at stake. The longer Doge is allowed to rain chaos on the American people, the stronger the backlash will become.
Again, has no clue what he's talking about. S2, before you take a run at that, Robert Larson, this chud is such a shitbird, censored by YouTube, approved by Survival Dispatch. So, and 100% approved over on Liberty Club. If you want to watch our videos on Liberty Club, we've got a group chat that runs 24/7 for each individual channel. And we've made we've moved mountains literally in the past few weeks on Liberty Club. A few more big features coming, including a super fast pipe. We got screwed by Comcast. They installed the wrong connection for the server, and it's not performing up to what it needs to, but that's going to be fixed this week. Anyway, S2, sorry about being long-winded. Chuck Schumer lecturing us on being entrepreneurs.
So what Chuck Schumer is talking about is all these people that are getting fired or laid off or have taken their buyouts. What he's not telling you is that Biden, during his term, basically made it so that if you were a government employee, you were given a choice. You could be a government employee and take a pension, or you could get Social Security. Well, Biden made it so that if you're a government employee, you get your pension only and you don't get Social Security. Biden did that, not Trump. Right. Biden did that.
Yeah, and you know what else the Democrats did? Bill Clinton laid off 377,000 civil servants to balance the budget in his first term. So
I just wanted to make that clear that it's Biden that did that.
Yeah, fair enough. So you want to talk censorship? We're working on making the chat on Liberty Club built into each individual post, but I just sent the link out to all 8 platforms so that people can click on it and it'll take you directly to the group chat. Our link was refused by Facebook already.
Imagine that.
Hey, listen, go to libertyclub.net. If you're signed up, log in, click on the groups up top that you'll see on the menu bar. It says groups. Click on that. Click on the Survival Dispatch News group. And right in the middle of your screen, you'll see a link that says messages. Click on that, scroll down, and that will take you into the group chat. And after doing that once, down in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a widget that has your friends and groups and group conversations. Click on groups over there and our chat will be in there forever and a day. You just got to get to it that first time, but we are going to make it easier. What we chose for the chat, by the way, does audio, video, it does text chats. It's a really badass piece of software, but expect some refinements coming here shortly. It was kind of a last minute addition to Liberty Club. All right, moving on. Bondi's Epstein file controversy, and I'm dying to hear your thoughts on this, S2, so I'm going to be really short. Attorney General Pam Bondi has claimed that the FBI in New York withheld thousands of Jeffrey Epstein-related documents. She's announced plans to release documents in stages, although initial releases were criticized for not including significant new information. There are contradictions in Bondi's statements regarding her possession of these documents, and she's faced scrutiny for her past as a lobbyist for Qatar, raising questions about conflicts of interest. What do you make of the whole Pam Bondi situation and the Epstein documents? Very disappointed on my part, by the way.
Well, I think if she's sitting there saying that she has them on her desk right now and all of that. And if anybody knows anything about this case, there were literally boxes and boxes and boxes of documents and tapes and DVDs and all kinds of stuff. For her to make that statement to say that I have the documents sitting on my desk, I think was a little theatrical, should I say? And for them to hand out a binder to social media influencers out there without proofreading it first, I really don't know what to make of this. I don't know if they're trying to squeeze this for everything they can get out of it, but I am going to say this much is even if they were going to release any of the videos, you're only going to get the PG rated pieces of it because number one, child pornography is illegal. It's illegal to view, distribute, possess, all of that. So you're never going to see any of that, and I hope none of you ever want to see any of that. But as far as the documents goes, like I said, I don't know what to make of that. I think it's more of a strategic move to. They know they're in this situation right now with Democrats. At least this is the way I would play it. I would not release everything all at once, and this may have been what they're doing is just dripping this out to make these Democrats that are acting like assholes sweat more. But eventually what's going to happen, and I've heard this from General Flynn too, there are going to be arrests. There are going to be perp walks. There are going to be grand jury indictments. So I tend to think what General Flynn is saying is probably more true than what we're hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say at this point, I'm hopeful, but as you probably remember, I raised some concerns over Pam Bondi. She was our attorney general here in Florida, and I have a major problem with anybody who embraces red flag laws. And she's the one who brought that to Florida, and that's a different rabbit hole. But she's super brilliant. She's a great attorney. I just don't know.
I just think everybody needs. I just think everybody needs to step back and take a breath from this thing. It's been however many years it's been. It's going to be as long as it's going to take to release things.
Yeah, it can't come soon enough. But last story for chapter 2. I promised we'd have a short chapter 2 to try and get back on schedule here. South Carolina declares emergency as wildfires rage. South Carolina is currently facing a significant wildfire crisis with over 175 fires burning across the state, affecting 4,200 acres. The largest fire in Carolina forest near Myrtle Beach has grown to 1,200 acres, leading to mass evacuations. Governor Henry McMaster has declared a state of emergency, and a statewide burn ban has been issued to curb further outbreaks. Firefighting efforts include both ground crews and aerial support, with no containments reported yet, posing continuous threats to residential areas. 25-second video, and then go to you for your comments as to. Shades of Los Angeles, but it looks like our fire plugs actually have water in them here in the southeast.
Well, yeah, they're right next to an ocean too.
Imagine that. So's LA. So, I'm not making light of the situation there.
Yeah.
It's the idiotic
Well,
decisions the
what's
government
really
makes.
weird about this is I was down in South Carolina all weekend. I just got back today, and there was not one peep mentioned about this, nor did I hear anything about North Carolina either.
Wow, very interesting. I was thinking because you were there looking at properties that you were probably aware of this, but that's
No,
really,
like I said, we didn't hear anything. And I mean, we're on the radio constantly when we're driving down the road, because we were on the road for a good portion of our days while we were down there. So we had the radio in our faces the whole time. But yeah, we didn't hear a single word about this.
and it popped up as one of the top news stories in my X feed today. So I figured we'd give it a mention. Hopefully it gets contained and doesn't end up out of control like LA did.
Well, there's another thing about South Carolina too. A lot of people don't know that South Carolina is actually timberland,
Big time.
and they have on average 8,000 fires a year. Some of it's controlled burn, some of it is, I don't know, some dude throwing a cigarette out the window, whatever. It could be me for that matter. Um, but a lot of people don't know that, and like I said, they average on about 8,000 fires annually. So for a fire to occur in South Carolina, maybe that's why we didn't hear much of it, because they're thinking, it's just another fire.
Yeah, and I would mention that unless you're in the low country in South Carolina, the rest of the state's covered up in pine trees, much like parts of North Florida are. But absolutely, yeah, there's a ton of trees there. So that's it for chapter 2. We're into chapter 3. So funny, zany stuff, memes, all that good stuff. And I'm just going to give a quick shout out to our friends at Ace Beam, try to rotate through some of this stuff. So these guys here, Ace Beam, I don't keep any of the flashlights that get sent to us except for the ones from Ace Beam. So they sent me a 80,000 lumen flashlight that's absolutely incredible, because the problem with the high powered flashlights, they overheat. So we had one from another brand, the name escapes me right now, was 100,000 lumens. And after running for 20 seconds, it completely shut off. So I turned it back on again and ran for 3 seconds. I turned it back on again, ran for 3 seconds, and I couldn't get it to stay on without overheating no matter what I did. And the Ace Beam one was rated 20,000 lumens less, but it had no problems maintaining that type of output. But what I really like about these guys is the machining quality is absolutely phenomenal. So this guy here is actually pretty beefy flashlight. I don't know that I would use this for an EDC flashlight, for example, but they make a gazillion different sizes, super, super high quality. You don't have to pat your head, rub your belly, do 3 Hail Marys to get them to turn on like a lot of flashlights. That's one of the things I love about Ace Beam. Push the button, turns on, push the button, it turns off. Like, it doesn't get any simpler. And they all charge with USB-C connections. Unlike many of them out there have these proprietary connectors, and then I lose them and then the flashlight goes away. So I stopped keeping everything except for Ace Beam. I don't have a discount code for you. We don't get any affiliate commission from them. They just send us stuff as they've got prototype stuff. Like, they're sending us a couple PEC boxes here shortly. Mike Sterling and I gave them some input on a prototype they had at SHOT Show, and they're just very nice people, and they make super high quality flashlights. It's the only brand I carry. All right, here we go. First one up. She almost found out that Dallas road rage. 25 seconds, 26 seconds.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. So people in Texas in general, very, very friendly people till you put them behind the wheel of a car. Then all bets are off.
I've been noticing that's pretty much the same everywhere nowadays.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll get through the whole 2 minutes of this one, but this guy does a pretty good job. Have you seen what that lunatic Trump did now? This is liberal logic 101.
Do you see what that lunatic Trump has done now? No, what? He's only made a deal with Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Wow, that's amazing. I know Trump's nuts on a lot of stuff, but that's really good news for Ukraine, isn't it? It's terrible news. It is? How? Putin could go on a rampage across Europe. It could be Poland next. Did he say that? No, but it's what everyone else said. Everyone else? Well, some in NATO have said it, and all the countries that have been pouring billions into the war. What about the fact that the war really began in 2014 under a secret US-led coup with the aim of putting military bases literally on Putin's doorstep as a part of the NATO expansion trying to get Ukraine into NATO, even though George Bush Sr. in the 90s had said that that would never happen? We don't like to talk about that. Okay, so have Ukraine at least been winning the war so far? No, they've been losing. I get it. You're upset with Trump because Ukraine should keep fighting because they still have the troops to win the war. No, they're actually running out of men. They're all getting killed. But if Ukraine will lose all of their men, then how will they win? The West need to keep sending support. We all have to stand with Ukraine. It's the right thing to do. I commend your ethics. So following your logic through to the end, when Ukraine do finally start to run out of troops, then we should start sending our own sons and daughters to the front line to fight Putin. No, we won't do that. But you just said we all have to stand with Ukraine? Yeah, I said stand with them, not fight alongside them.
There's a little bit more to that one, but we'll leave it there. So net zero taxing everything. Lambeth Council is taxing people for parking in their own drive if they have to cross pavement to enter it. It's called the curbside strategy, which it claims will support resilience to climate emergency. Utter bollocks. Look at this.
That sounds like that horse shit they were doing up in New York with the congestion tax.
Yeah. Sounds exactly like that. All right, this next one's pretty crazy. This is the best thing that you'll see all day. And if you look here where my cursor is, that's a golden retriever. This is pretty interesting.
This tiger approaches the golden retriever, then he starts to act cute. These tigers are all children of the golden retriever, abandoned by their tiger mother, while the golden retriever took on the responsibility of feeding them, meticulously caring for these 5 little ones. They grew up drinking the golden retriever's milk under the influence of the gentle golden retriever's character. The tigers seem to have turned into gentle kittens. You can see them cuddling up to the golden retriever every day, even though each one of them now weighs over 200 pounds. Each one is larger than the golden retriever, yet they still obey the golden retriever. Whenever they do something wrong, the golden retriever always educates them. Like little cats, they are very clingy every day. They are all affectionate in their interaction with the golden retriever. At the same time, they are very cautious, afraid of hurting the golden retriever. Sometimes conflicts arise among the kittens, but the golden retriever always intervenes in time. In front of the golden retriever, they quickly retract their claws.
That's pretty cool. All right, next one up. Remember back when President Trump did this? I remember taking the challenge. So throwback to when Donald Trump took on the ice bucket challenge. 49 seconds.
I've been called out by everybody for the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Homer Simpson, Mike Tyson, Vince McMahon, like everybody's going crazy over this thing. I guess they want to see whether or not it's my real hair, which it is. So here's what I'm going to do. Miss Universe and Miss USA, I own it. They're here. They're going to really do a number on me. I'm challenging President Obama, my son Donald, my son Eric. Let's go, ladies. What a mess. I've been called out.
That's too funny. All right, next one up. Somebody did some editing magic on Friday's conversation in the Oval Office.
Right now, not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
Whoever did that one, that was brilliant. Very well done. All right, next one up. Today in Europe. Brendan Dilley's team are the best. They kick ass. All right. Bye-bye, Zelensky.
Don't tell us what weather it feels. Don't tell us what weather it feels.
Would have been glorious to see that. All right. And so back to this whole thing in Europe of people going to jail for memes and stuff. True story, man. 1 minute. Do you want to comment on that, Stu?
No, because we've already seen that.
Yeah, it's freaking crazy. Right. And so here's another clip from that 60 Minutes episode, which, by the way, they were one of the first ones to say Hunter's laptop was Russian disinformation. But 44 seconds. Crazy stuff.
I can't wait for the new show, 60 Edits.
Right. All right. Next one up. This is the best advertisement I've ever seen on a business vehicle. Good sense of humor there. All right. This next one was freaking funny with this dog. Dogs are the best. My Labrador jumps on everyone in the pool.
Ella, stop. I'm destroyed right now. Oh, no, Ella, you have to stop now. You're going to learn.
Maybe say sit?
No, it's not. It's...
Perfect camera angle on that one.
Got some air on that one.
Yeah. All right. Bro was going to lose his life over a prank. Only reason I let that play is I like that song.
Yeah. Be roundabout.
So there you go. Whenever you meet your real boss, you always wear a suit. Mm-hmm. All right. And AI is out of control. There's no audio with this. Oh, gotta love it. All right. And adding insult to injury, Trump changes Netflix password, and now Zelensky has to get his own. And what did you do with the $350 billion we gave you? List 5 things. Doge strikes again. Oh, and my new favorite account to follow on X, Retard Finder, found one. Actually, there were some really funny ones that, oh my God, there's going to be like 5 or 6 people like that he did in a row. But how does this video make you feel? Exactly as we would expect.
Like the Samsonite gorilla.
Yeah, you're going to love this one. Europe is ready to fight Russia. The walls are closing in on Putin. 31 seconds. I don't know if that's authentic or not, but it's gay as fuck. Retard Finder on the job again. Found another one.
Yep. I saw one of those this weekend.
Oh my God. This one cracks me up. Panhandlers are taking it to a new level. One in my town had trained his dog to carry a hat in its mouth to the cars to collect money, and the cash was flying. What's the most creative panhandler setup you've seen? And then check out this guy's sign.
Love, but I won't do that.
Great choice of music. I'm not going to play this whole video. Thankfully, it ends well. Poor horse. So this is like several minutes of seeing if they can get this girl on the horse.
It's not an Uber, is it?
No, and man, I got something on that for you in a second on the lift. So this goes on for several minutes, and they give up. So the horse was saved.
They should make the horse kneel down. It would be easier.
Why, you hate horses or something? What are you talking about?
I'm just saying, if you're going to be smart about it.
All right, Trump, I am pro-oxygen. Sweet, beautiful oxygen. Liberals and rhinos.
Is that a condom stretched over her head?
Probably. That'd be my guess, too. And you'll love this one.
Safe and effective.
You don't see many flare gun defense situations. It's only 5 seconds, so I'm going to play it a couple times.
Whoa, dude.
That'll teach them for wearing a mask outdoors where there's no risk.
Whoa.
That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must be Japan.
Yeah, so sad. Poor little dude here. With USAID shut down, this Ecuadorian child may never know what gender he is. Very sad. All right. And mega women, all guts, no nuts. Down with that. And here we go. How bad is this going to piss the
low on soldiers? Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, you should get a ceasefire right now. I tell you.
Oh my God. AI is out of freaking control. All right. Next time you hear a liberal moron bring up the price of eggs, show them this. 51 seconds.
Egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for America?
really glad you brought this up.
Yeah, boy.
I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country.
Wait for it. Here it comes.
The Biden administration and the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading to the shortage.
Yeah, I was waiting on that.
V-dub was pretty good. This one is freaking hilarious. This guy kills me. What are you, deaf and gay? 1 minute and 7 seconds.
I always liked to work outdoors, but when my allergies got the best of me, I thought those days were gone. Then I asked my doctor about Levitol, and he said, Levitol? What is that? I said, I don't know. I think it's an allergy medication. So he said, Levitol? Levitol? Oh, do you mean Levitrol? Kind of snooty-like. So I was like, oh, my bad, Levitrol. So he said, yeah, I've definitely heard of Levitrol, not Levitol. But then again, what do I know? I'm just a doctor. So I said, can Levitrol help me? And he said, sure, it'll cure all of your allergies with little or no side effects, but it's not a miracle drug. It can't cure gay. And I was like, what? Tinkerbell? It can't cure gay. I was like, well, what's your problem? He's like, hey, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Lots of people have gay. Very common. And I said, first of all, I'm not gay. And second of all, gay's not a disease. And he's like, wow, you're pretty smart, fancy britches. I said, don't talk to me like that, son of a bitch. You blowing up on me, sugar? You want to throw down? Because I will drop you like a bad transmission. And I'm like, I don't want to fight. I just want to know if Levitrol is right for me. He said, I already told you it's right for you. What are you, gay and deaf?
Oh my god!
Like you're gonna fight with your doctor. Damn.
Yeah. All right, so we're into memes and good stuff like that. Dear CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS, the first ever person of color to lead the FBI was confirmed last week. Isn't this the kind of thing y'all usually obsess over for weeks? All right, drop your memes or else. I should be,
never.
Should throw that in the Signal chat. Elon built that golf cart for Trump, by the way. All right. Obama used USAID to fund the Wuhan bioweapons lab to launch a deadly global pandemic, execute a coup in Ukraine to initiate a war with Russia, fund NGOs who facilitated the invasion of 30 million criminal aliens, create a phony black book that was the basis of Trump's first impeachment. And Macron says, I got a package for you. Zelenskyy, money, weapons and money, white flags, and plenty of lube. And there you go. Dank lost her lawsuit against Lyft. Have a blessed day, everybody. I did confirm that is true. If I text you this, it means I need money. And Ukraine is now the leader of the free world. That's all they keep saying. That's their new talking point. Zelenskyy is the leader of the free world. Intersectionality, Russian collusion line, implicating USAID corruption on the Epstein list. Would you see who's in the middle of that Venn circle?
It's like a Venn diagram to me. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, there's a Zelenskyy, seriously, 1999, New York, did all kinds of gay for pay stuff back in the day, and this is the leader of the free world now, in case you didn't get the memo. Trump was right about everything. Yes, he was. You can't trust the people working at Doe's, say the people who let 5-year-olds pick their gender.
There you go.
That's a repeat. First, they supplied him with weapons, then they killed him, Gaddafi. First, they supplied him with weapons, then they killed him, Bin Laden. First, they supplied him with weapons, then they killed him, Saddam Hussein. First, they supplied him with weapons, and then to be continued.
Like I said, he's just looking for a way to stay alive.
Yeah, 100%. Elon Musk says Grok will soon be able to read the omnibus bills Congress likes to make and summarize them so politicians can't hide stuff from us. And that was in the spring. Now Grok 3 has that capability. So
I like that idea.
Yeah, it'll blow through these massive bills and tell you exactly what's in there that they love to hide. Countries receiving U.S. aid, U.S. taxpayers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. You're a fascist. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
And that came to us from one of our new subscribers to Liberty channel.
on the Signal chat. That's right. If you go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up as an insider, $9.99 a month. You get our daily sit rep, which is what you see here. We base every episode off of it. So it's like a highly curated daily newspaper, but you get all 3 chapters. You get an invite to our Signal chat, which is 2,500 messages a day. Ton of information and intel being shared on there, plus some cool memes as well. All right. As they say in England, Allah Akbar.
I thought it was Aloha Snack Bar.
Well, yeah, it depends on your which dialect you use. I love being an American. I'm ashamed of America. It's an oppressive nation. That commie is lucky we weren't in a helicopter.
I know, right?
Laid off IRS agents now forced to go door to door robbing people directly. Why old people always get a discount on shit? Motherfucker, you had 80 years to stack your bread. Massive news. The Biden administration sent $2.7 trillion in Medicare and Medicaid funds overseas to people who are not eligible to receive them. Yes, $2.7 trillion with a T. There's so much fraud being uncovered by Doge. This is exactly what I voted for. This is not a meme. Go back and go look at doge.gov and the Doge reporter sites. They did find this, but it wasn't coded, right? So with no coding, you don't know exactly who it went to and what it was there for. I'd rather see Congress filled with truckers, welders, and plumbers than people from Harvard and Yale. And if Itchy Ass had a face.
I thought she was Jock Itch.
Yeah, well, both. How many countries tax their citizens and send money to the United States? Anybody? Anybody want to tell me? On all 8 platforms we're broadcasting to.
0.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. JD Vance, president, 2028, 2036. What do you think? High probability.
Jury's still out.
Yeah, I think there's a high probability. This is why young people in America are so confused. This is what the left tards want to say is a woman. This is competent. This is an African American. This guy is a hero, drug addict who punched a pregnant woman in the gut. This guy's a scientist, not. Michelle Obama, worth tens of millions of dollars, is oppressed. AOC is a genius. The autistic kid is an expert. Mostly peaceful protest, and 1/1024th of a Native American that she put on applications for her education to get scholarships and whatnot. If you're not a conspiracy theorist by now, you are basically retarded. True story. True story.
Well, no, we're past conspiracy theories now. We're into conspiracy truths.
Yes, we are. I used to think that Trump was great, but now seeing how the whole system was rigged against him from every media outlet to the FBI and CIA, I have to believe that he's the greatest of all time. I'm there. I've covered presidential politics for 40 years. This was the most juvenile display by a president and vice president I've ever seen. Other presidents treated their enemies with more respect. This is a low point and dark day for the U.S. Retard finder. I've covered retards for 4 days, and yours is one of the most retarded posts I've seen. This guy cracks me up. All right. 2 poster children for why stolen elections matter. Boy, yeah, that's a mouthful. My car is making a terrible noise. Try taking out the Taylor Swift CD. And there's a difference between fat and trans fat, by the way. Just for those people who are getting into this whole Maha thing and want to know.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yeah, that's fat and trans fat for sure. First name that comes to mind that should be in prison right now. All right, this is more than a 1 or a 2. Actually, no, let's do a 1 or a 2. If Nancy Pelosi comes to mind, put a 1. If Chuck Schumer comes to mind, put a 2. And if Obama comes to mind, put a 3. So 1 for Pelosi, 2 for Schumer, 3 for Obama on who you think should be in prison right now. 1 for Pelosi, 2 for Schumer, 3 for Obama. Look at the Obamas rolling. Rob Wright's got it nailed. He says 1, 2, 3.
I know. I was like, you said the first word, so that was what came into my mind. So you rigged it.
That's fantastic. All right. So we get down to my notes here. All right. So homework. What can people do in light of the topic that's been the number 1 topic for the past 3 episodes? Number 1, you can share Survival Dispatch news with your circle, help spread the truth. You can share Liberty Club, libertyclub.net with your circle, and encourage them to join the only censorship platform out there now, thanks to Todd Callender and my team building it. Continue writing to your congressional reps and senators expressing your support for President Trump's peace agenda, which is overwhelming. Well over 70% of Americans support it. Again, if you go to patreon.com/survivaldispatch or click the link down below or up above, some platforms put the description up there, some put it down there. Patreon.com/survivaldispatch, $9.99 a month to sign up as an insider. You get our daily situation report, which is what you just saw me conduct this episode from. It's got a bunch of extra stuff that's not part of our episodes. You get an invite to our private Signal chat, which has just been an explosion of intel and information shared. And you get other stuff, but I won't take us down that too much further. And by golly, S2, I just noticed I forgot to put a conflicted question in here. How fast can we get a conflicted question together?
That was going to be my piece of advice, was don't let Chris get the conflicted question.
No, too late. Give me, just bear with me here. We'll come up with one really quickly here.
I did want to have something that while you're hunting that down, I wanted to have something that I wanted to say on advice here. So, guys, everybody out in the audience tonight, we started off with Peter Forteff tonight. It got off to a really rocky start with him. But the point that I want to make to this is a lot of you showed him understanding and kindness. And if we can take that time to show that kind of understanding and kindness with other people out there, it may be possible that some of these people, we could talk some sense into them, the crazy lunatics that are out there. I mean, Peter watches us obviously because he's been on here before. But if we take that kind of approach to other people out there, perhaps we can show them the light of understanding to the things that we see every day versus what they're being told every day.
Yeah, people don't know what they don't know, and that's great advice at S2 for sure. And I appreciate you mentioning that. All right, so I got your conflict question here. If you had to evacuate your home with only 10 minutes to prepare and could only take what fits in a single backpack, what's the one overlooked item you'd make sure to grab, and how would it help you survive? So not a gun, not a knife, something that's typically overlooked, and how would it help you survive? S2?
I don't know. I don't overlook things. My toothbrush?
Answer it in general. Like if your average person, what's an item you think that they would potentially overlook that could help them survive?
I would say probably something a lot of people don't think about, and that would be your water valve petcock tool.
Yeah, like a Silcock key.
Yep.
Good point. Yep. So Silcock key is a great answer. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I'll bring one up here for you quickly and show you. Do you want to explain what it does, by the way? They're about 12 on Amazon.
So a lot of people out there nowadays, they remove the handles off of their water spigots outside so that you can't go out there and just randomly turn it on and leave it on, play pranks and stuff like that. What this key allows you to do is to turn those water spigots on so that you can get water out of them.
Pretty much every commercial building out there that's in a municipality with water supply has an external faucet hose bib of some type too that you open with a Silcock key, and as you can see, $12.99. So pretty handy to get water. Velcro says a hatchet. Fraternity says a Bible. Just looking to see if I catch anything else out of there. Mine would be related to water as well. You can go 3 days without water, but by day 2, your brain turns to mush, and you're not likely to make the best decisions. I would say Sawyer mini filters, 100,000 gallon capacity, the only ones that have passed all of our tests. I don't have a discount code for you. I don't get paid any affiliate stuff. They're by far and away the best water filters out there, though. Sawyer Products, we played an ad for them earlier. You can buy stuff off their website, or you can buy off of Amazon as well.
I have both of those items in my truck right now as we speak.
Same. So great minds think alike. All right, we will be back tomorrow night at the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Got a great video to close it out here tonight. It's one I don't think that we've played If we have, I apologize, but I don't think we've played it. But until tomorrow night, please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.
Hoorah.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering
position to
questions.
dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this.
I do.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with all
backed you
respect to you.
far more than a lot of people said they should. We gave you, this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave
for
you
your
military equipment, and you men are brave, but they had to use our military equipment. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. It was your president.
Excuse me, I was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is, Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You gotta be more thankful. Because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you?
The president has kicked Zelensky out of the White House. His delegation right now is telling him that he's got to go home. The president felt disrespected. Officials in the room felt that beyond the language barrier, we've heard some discussion about Zelensky's body language, shrugging and eye rolling was ungrateful, disrespectful.
What have I ever done to make you treat me so disrespectful?